Welcome to episode 197 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills. I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our third batch of games from issue 79 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and we blasted and boomed in Battle Command, torpidly swam and walked through Thunderjaws, and suffered at the speed of Stack Up. This week we conclude our look at the games in December 1991, along with what was also lighting up our TV and cinema screens in December 1991. Graham, the end of 1991 is nigh. Do we have glorious or terrible sights for our listeners to behold?
Here we are, the last of 1991 games, and even though there have been less games in 1991, it's often felt more challenging to get through them, because so many of them stink like a sewer. The tail end of the C64's gaming life is a bit like the last of the Quality Street at Christmas. All the best ones have gone, and you're kind of left with a load of toffees and strawberry creams. Ooh, whoever wanted that? So while we wonder who ate all the green triangles, we slide into sports shorts, pump up our Burl to 11, and head once again to the fields with giant H's looking to play a rough and ready game of egg chase in world-class rugby. And then we get drunk at a sleazy hotel and find ourselves in a whole world of accusatory finger-pointing in the somewhat mal-themed Crime Time. Funnily enough, I saw them begin to stack the supermarkets with tubs of sweets in preparation for Christmas the other day. Yes, I know it's August right now and a fourth heatwave in the UK, but you got to start stockpiling those things kind of early. So in our final farewell to December 1991, we go for a stomp and a punch-up as we walk the well-dithered streets of Ditherington in a dithery fight with dithery folk in the dithery last battle, before we finally head out to the dung pile of movie flops and take a minute to assume the 8-bit form of Bruce Willis as we try and make sense of the movie version of the film Hudson Hawk. Farewell December and so long 1991, a strange year in many ways and the only one with 11 issues of Zap. The end of the podcast countdown really is upon us now, isn't it? Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. That's all getting very Hellraiser-y, that sounding then. I know. We have such shites to show you. It's right. I didn't mean to say that, but it's right.
It says. It also doesn't make any sense. Our listeners can't behold the sights.
No, this is true. But you've maybe now realised that Sean Connery's Hellraiser is where it's at. Hellraiser. We have such shites to show you.
Glorious shites to show you.
Pinheaded shit. Get me butterball.
Oh, good old Sean.
Your pain will be legendary, unshaken, unstirred in hell. It's Hellraiser. That's right with that. We'll be together again.
The Andy Bell Cenobite.
Together for the first time. The Bellabite. Together for the first time. Sean Connery and Andy Bell. No one knew it would happen, including them.
That's the magic of Hellraiser. You open the box, they came.
Your pain will be legendary. And here's Andy Bell. They'll be together again.
Yes, indeed. Right, on that note, so we've got loads. Obviously, it's the last of the year, the last episode of 1991.
It's the last one of December 1990. Well, it's the last one of 91, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. Yeah. So next week, if you listen to this, obviously, next week it is the Bread Bin Awards.
Bread Bins.
The Bread Bin Awards for 1991. They'll be an interesting bunch, won't they?
No. I've got a feeling that the bread in the bread bin is a little bit mouldy for this year.
It's gone off. If you bought it at Co-op in the clearance bit when it was already on its best before date was today, and you've left it for a week.
Yeah, but it's on the turn.
It's very much on the turn.
It's good for toast.
The corner's gone blue.
Yeah, exactly. It's always I think that's my methodology actually when it comes down to it. If it's not growing, then I'll trim the necessary blue bits off and I'll still toast it and eat that.
You would. Yeah, I've seen you do that.
It's this. I mean, I don't generally eat a lot of bread, really, anyway, not these days. But if I do, I have the sourdoughs from the co-op, generally speaking. They're the ready sliced one because I can't be asked to slice my own sourdough. It's ridiculous.
You're a lazy,
how dare they
man.
even ask? How dare? Well, it doesn't taste right. I don't know what it is. It used to be really nice. Then they changed the recipe and it's got like a bit of an odd taste now. So that's why I go for the sliced one. That feels like old school co-op, whereas the new one's like so the new one's probably AI generated or something for all I know.
AI cooked sourdough. It's
an AI recipe. Yeah, it's an AI recipe. Well, nowadays you see all these the newfangled AIs have got the power of a PhD behind them, haven't they? So let's hope they can still spell carrot and things like that because I'm pretty sure PhDs can.
I don't think that LLMs can. That's the problem. But just to traverse off this notion, whatever we're talking about, if you want to get in on the bread bins next week, then you need to join our Patreon. And because there's still time, because we're not recording it till next week. So if you want to join our Patreon, it's patreon.com/Zapped to the past. It's cheap. And if you want to, obviously the C64 level is where you want. And if you've got games that you would like to nominate for best game or anything like that, your own things for next week, then you need to get on that in the next few days and let us know. Get on the Discord, get on the Patreon and let us know. But sign up and you can get in on that stuff, which is cool.
Join in the fun. Many great people have. Many, many, many great people have.
They have, and they will be contributing to next week's episode, I would assume.
I would have thought so.
We've got to ask them yet, but they'll be listening to this and they'll be going, "Oh, it's the bread bins." We'll be like, "Yes, let's just have your thoughts,
your contributions."
We do. So if you want to get in on that, join the Patreon. There you go. And on that note, should we get in some games?
Well, there's only a few, isn't there? So we may as well get them done.
Yeah, there's another four for this week. So yes, let's get to the very first one. And that first one, well, it's world-class rugby.
Oh la la.
Yeah, we start the week with our second rugby game in this issue.
We do.
Unlike the first one, which has only got 36%, this is not just rugby. This is M&S rugby. And by that, I mean this is world-class rugby, which would have cost you £11.99 back in the day. But it's not licensed, so I don't know what they're paying for. It did get a highly respectable 84%, though, in the magazine.
That's not bad.
No, it's no mean feat for a rugby title, because they've not been very good so far, if I'm honest. The ones we've played, they've not been great. So, I mean, it's another rugby game. We covered rugby, or you did. You covered it very well about rugby league and rugby union and the differences and everything. Yep. I could tell you all about the rules of rugby, but for that, just go and listen to episode 195 where Graham went through them all for Rugby the World Cup. Or I could just read from the instructions, because the instructions has a very, very nice piece of advice. It says this: world-class rugby simulates most of the features of a real rugby game. This manual does not attempt to explain the rules of rugby in detail. If you are new to rugby, you are advised to read a book on the game. I like that. Just start off and read a book.
Passing the book, literally.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do like that, actually. Encouraging you maybe to go to a library and sort of find out about the rules of rugby. It's a little blunt, but I think it's fair enough in my book, because chances are, right, if you're a keen enough rugby fan to want to buy this game and blow 12 quid and you get the manual with it, you probably already know the rules of rugby. I think that's the case. Don't you reckon? Otherwise, you're probably going to get a pirated version of this, because it's like, well, you're not going to get the instructions anyway.
The word rugby in it would mean that it probably would attract rugby followers, I would have thought.
Who would probably know the rules, exactly. They know what a scrum, a line out, and a ruck are all about. They know these things. They know these terms
they do.
And what they're about. So I think it's fair enough, rather than just print out a load of instructions, which I already know this. So.
It's everyday life for them, isn't it?
It is. It's the life of a rugby fan. Yeah. Day in, day out, scrums, rucks, line outs, tries, boys, do or do nots. Anyway, this was published by Audiogenic, but it was actually designed by Denton Designs. We've not seen it for some time. Not since 1988's Fox Fights Back and Troll, in fact. That's the last.
Okay.
Cods Lemon 64, there's a big gap, and then there's this.
Yeah.
So I don't know quite why Denton Designs have come back with this. I'm not sure what the deal is, but anyway, they have produced this for Audiogenic. It was produced by Mike Holliston and Peter Carver, coded by Roy Bannon. Not Roy Batty, but Roy Bannon. This is his only game listed on C64 on Lemon. And the musician was Fred Gray. Again, someone we've not seen since the 1990s Eye of Horus. So a newbie and a real out-of-the-woodwork design team here. This is, old school stuff.
Okay.
Before we get to the game, we've got two versions of this, though. It's weird. There's a tape version and a disc version, and there are differences between the two versions, which I found as I played through them both. The screenshots on them are all from the disc version of the game, but the tape version, although being pretty much feature complete, has some changes to its presentation. And some other bits and bobs, I think, were probably in order to get it into a single load, whereas the disc version takes advantage of the format and is multi-load. Now, I use the word advantage in a way, but I'm not quite sure it does. But we'll come to those. There are more differences between two versions, though. Quite an interesting release, I think, in terms of how they've approached both a disc and a tape version. I'll mention them, though, those differences, as we go through the game. And the first of those differences is that this version has a loading screen. I couldn't find this on the tape version or any tape version that I looked at. It's got the game's logo in front of a load of rugby balls. Why not?
That's true.
Play rugby, load of rugby balls.
Yeah,
Maybe
sense.
the tape version has it, but it was not there on the version that I had or any of the versions I tried or watched on YouTube. The disc version also gets some credits, like a credit screen as well, before the main menu appears. And this screen is very different between the two versions. Really, really different. They've both got the same options, but the layout is not the same. So the options you have here, you've got options at the top, then there's teams, then there's match, and then there's video. So options takes you to a couple of choices where you can change the conditions and rules, or the play options. There are your two options under this. Conditions and rules lets you change the wind speed, the condition of the pitch, whether it's grassy, muddy, or icy, whether the offside rule is off or on, the length of the game, from a 4-minute game to a full 80-minute game, if you really want to go that far. The skill level from 0 to 7. I played at 0 and I still got battered. I'm presuming 0 is the worst. It could not be, I don't know. And whether equal skills are on or off. And if equal skills are on, it means that all the players have similar abilities. So they're all of an equal ability. If they're off, then each player, and this is actually, you can see this in the game, players have different speeds and they have different abilities. So you can see that in the game itself. In the play options, you can decide whether to watch CPU matches in the league and cup competitions. You can turn the sound off or on and the music off or on if you want. In the teams menu, you can change the colour of the strips for all 16 teams present in the game. I'm not going to go through them all, but it's just the big teams that were in the World Cup. There's all the ones you'd expect and a few that you probably wouldn't. You can change whether they're played by a human or the computer, and you can change the squad selection. You can go in there and just flip them around so someone's a reserve. You can change them all about. Doesn't have as many options, though, as it does on the other versions. This came out on the Atari, ST, Amiga, Spectrum, and Amstrad. I think on DOS as well, perhaps. But in those, you could actually go in and change the individual stats of players. We can't do that on the C64 version. You can just swap the players around. So bit of a lack there, not something you can do on this version. In the match option, you can opt to play a single friendly, a World Cup with all 16 teams present and correct, or a league made up of 8 teams. Choosing the friendly lets you choose from all the teams or out of all 16, and whether you play a single or 2-player versus mode. So you can play against a player, another friend, or you can play against a computer. World Cup, if you go in here, there's some options in here to show fixtures, to group standings. You can start a new World Cup or play the next game. If this is CPU versus CPU, then depending whether you've chosen to watch these games, we'll either show the game or game itself in full. You can sit and watch it like a demo or get some sort of hints and tips, or it'll just show you the result. It's up to you. The league option has similar options, showing the league fixtures. You can start a new one, play out the next game, and watch it or just get the results. The same thing. So, but you've got those teams, you've got those options. So you've got a bit of a longevity here, options to play through. So you can do it one player. Now, the tape version has these options laid out very simply. It's just a column. So you just go all, one on top of the other. You move up and down them with a joystick, press fire for any selections. It's a plain blue background. It's functional. It loops. I like the fact that it loops from top to bottom. So if you're at the bottom one and you push down, it goes to the top. And if you're at the top and you push up, it goes to the bottom. That's good. I like that kind of thing in my menu systems and vice versa. Yeah. So it does that. It's good. This version, though, is more fancy. With a background display. So the sort of graphics in the background, there's bigger icons. It has them laid out in 2 columns throughout. Here, though, it still uses up and down to move for them, but because they're off to the right and then back to the left, up moves you to the right and then down a column and back to the left. It doesn't feel quite as intuitive.
No, I thought that. A bit long-winded.
It's a bit weird. And sometimes it's not consistent. You get to the League and World Cup modes, you push down and it actually goes down and then goes up and to the right. It's a bit weird. I'm not quite sure. It may look better. There's more stuff going on. The visuals are nicer, but the simpler and more cleaner functional presentation of the tape version was my preference. Just easier, quicker to get into, It is what it is. What I did notice, though, I don't know if it was just my version, whether it was the crack. If I was on the menu for the tape version for too long, it would crash. It would just lock up. So I had to get through them quite quickly just to place them in. I don't know whether it's the version I was playing, whether it's the original. I don't know. Probably a crack thing, but it is what it is. There's also a piece of music playing along, which is okay. Very Fred Gray. It's quite catchy in an old school Sid way. It's got quite a nice little hook to it, which I was kind of humming after playing it for quite a while. I was like, oh, that's got into my head. But it's not terrible. And, it just shows you like an old, simple Sid tune from one of the old people who do these kind of things can actually be much nicer than some rock monitor fancy stuff. Just nice tune, nice hook. Anyway, when you've chosen what you want to do, you can start the match. And here the tape version just starts, which is nice, whereas the disc version has to load the game in. And this adds a much intrusive delay to the procedures, which I didn't like. There's loading. The tape version is very immediate. It's just all there. The immediacy of the tape version is far better. When you've chosen what you want to do, so it's much better the tape version. When the game does start, we have a top-down view of the pitch, a slight angle to it. So you're kind of looking down from behind and on top. It's not directly top-down because the players are at an angle, I think. So you're kind of looking almost not three-quarters, but you're slightly at an angle. The pitch takes up the top, say, three-quarters of the screen. The UI is at the bottom. This shows the team, the scores, the time elapsed so far. It's got the world class just in the middle. They ought to put rugby in. But maybe,
maybe too difficult.
Just couldn't spell it.
Yeah, just didn't want to.
World class Ruby. Oh, you've spelt it wrong. And then there's two displays in this bottom UI as well. On the right, we've got a radar view of the pitch. I guess it's useful. I just found it utterly unusable. It's a bit too small, and it's although it shows you there's a square where you're seeing of the on the top display, it's that thing about having to look down to the bottom right while stuff's happening on screen, and I can't use that. On the left of the UI, we have not a red triangle. I don't know why I've written red triangle. It's a red, where my mind was. We have a red rectangle with two white lines in it, a horizontal one and a vertical one. I'll come to what those do in a bit. There's a piece of music playing, and the word welcome appears in the UI. The players all run on. You can see them in the radar. They take their position, some run through the camera, and they sort of run downwards, and everything sorts out. The players themselves, single sprites. They're well drawn, though, and animated. They actually look like little rugby players. Best we've seen so far, rather than the tiny little things we saw for the kickoff version in World Cup Rugby, whatever it was, the other week. And the side-on view we saw ages ago. This is quite a nice representation of players and the way they run around and stuff. It's quite a good. They're quite good players, I thought. The vertical white line. So your player then, you will if you're kicking, if you're player one, then you take the kick off. Your player will run to the ball, the little rugby ball which is there, and the game will start. So the vertical white line to do a kick will start moving left and right in the little sort of rectangle in the bottom left. And that basically controls the direction of the kick. Okay, so if you want it to go to the right, wait till it's over to the right, left, over to the left, straight down the middle, wait till it's in the middle. Pressing and holding the fire will lock in the direction, and the horizontal line will start moving up and down. The higher the line in the rectangle, when you release the fire button, the further the kick. So if you want to do a really short kick, release it when it's at the bottom. If you want to do a fire kick, off to, when it's at the top. If you want to do a medium kick and off to the side to try and sort of get a line out immediately, do it off to the right and put it in the middle somewhere. Once you let go, your player goes and kicks the ball downfield. And we're off into the rugby. And one of the things we found in that previous rugby game was it was quite complicated to control. This is not. This is pretty simple, quite easy and quite intuitive. Controls are simple enough in the main game. 8-way movement. Control of your player is denoted, which one you're controlling is denoted by having, it's like an arrow over their head. Nice and easy to see. If you have the ball, you can pass it by tapping fire while it's running in a direction. It'll just release it and lob it. Sometimes, if you go and throw it to another player. If you want to kick it, then you hold onto the fire button and then release it. The longer the hold, the further the kick. It's pretty much it, really, at this point. If you're in defense, then when you are close enough to the opposing player, if you press fire button, you're not close enough, it won't do this. If you are close enough, then you can tap fire to try and tackle them. You'll dive and try and tackle them. If you do manage to tackle them, this leads to a ruck, which is an immediate scrum, basically. And this is quite nice because all the players run in and the ruck starts immediately. So even before the last players are in, you've got to start pushing. You must waggle the joystick from side to side to push the opposing side back and get control of the ball. And thankfully here, the waggle is quite easy. It's not too onerous. You don't have to do it that fast, but it's quite nice sort of seeing them back and forth as you sort of try to, you're waggling the joystick back and forth. It works quite well in the context of the game. It doesn't happen, you've got a bit of time to get your joystick in the right place, get waggling, you get it, player comes back out, ball comes back out, off you go, you start playing again. If you manage to score a try, or the player gets a try, then there's a conversion, as you would expect. And that basically follows the same as the kickoff. So the red rectangle, you'll use that to aim and the power you want to do it for. And that's kind of it. All the rules you went and read about in a book, they're present and correct. Penalties happen, offsides happen if you've got them turned on, drop goals, you can try and do them and the like. It's all there. When there's a foul or penalty or something like that, you get a proper scrum or a line out. When you get these, so when the play stops and you get a proper scrum, so, the player stopped, you actually get the chance to do some set plays. These are described in the instruction manual, but here they actually appear in the middle of the screen. So you get like this little sort of these squares appear. It's very Denton designs. It reminds me of that little portals opening in Frankie Goes to Hollywood and stuff. There's little boxes sort of appearing and things like that. They're good at this Denton designs. And essentially you get like all these options like you used to get in like American football games, and you just move the joystick in the direction desired and you press fire to select it. It doesn't tell you you've done it, so you're opposing, if you're playing against someone, they don't know. Now again, there's a difference here. In the tape version, it just has the text of the special move, so it'll just say miss it or scissors or things like that. In the disc version, it has the layout from the manual. So this means it's just a load of lines and X's and zeros. And I found that way harder to read. I was like trying to look at them going, what goes where? Who's what's happening? So again, for me, this was a win for the tape version because it was like, I kind of knew what the moves did because it explained it in the manual. Oh, it does that. I just need to understand that. Which one's which? It doesn't tell you. It just has the diagram. And I'm like, I don't know which is which. So yeah, the tape version again wins out. Another little note here is the way lineouts are done. So again, you get selected your special plays that you can do. So what happens? These special plays happen if you win the scrum or you win the lineout. So if you win the lineout and you manage to tap the ball back, you can just let your players like pull off this little cool special move before you get back into control. You can cancel it at any point by just holding down the fire button and take control. This is some really nice little touches in this game, which you can do. But once you've picked your special move with the line out, there's a little bar with an indicator sort of moving back and forth under your player who's doing the throw. And this indicates where you are going to throw it along the line. So again, I really like that. So it's not such a power thing. It's just like, it's the further along it is, the farther back it will throw it. If you're closer to the bar is to the left, I think the closer to the left or the right it will throw it. It's quite a simple way to throw, sort of say, a power bar without being a power bar, but it just says this is where you're going to lob it. So you know when to kind of jump and the player goes. That's quite a nice touch. And that's it, really. I mean, I thought all in all, this is a very, very good version of Rugby. I mean, we've talked about rugby games, and it is what it is. I asked last time if it was possible to a decent game of Rugby on the machine. Turns out there is, and this is it. Audiogenic done what Emlyn Hughes' football did. I mean, they did Emlyn Hughes' football. It's not to say, and some people on Lemon said this is the kind of rugby equivalent of that game. They've looked at it and gone, how do we make rugby playable on the machine? And they've done it. There are a lot of sprites running about the pitch, all well animated, smooth scrolling that I can notice, no glitches of any kind that I could see. So, a technical point of view, very smooth indeed. The front end is nice and easy to use. Really nice icon-driven commands, kind of what we used to with Denton's designs. It's smooth. It's simple to get a league or cup up and running. And also as well, if you went into the options and turned all the teams to human, I think you probably could have a 16 human player competition, if you had that. And with the ability to save and load, if you had a load of mates that were into rugby and you wanted to play that, then, people could come around and play the games and stuff. And I doubt this ever happened, but it could. It's a really nice touch to have. You can also watch replays. There are also replays to watch as well. You can press a button, at the touch of a key, you can slow them down, and you can watch replays of the most recent play. It's another great and unusual feature to have back then in C64 games. We've seen that in one other game, or one or two other games. It was a football game, I think, that had replays, wasn't there? But we don't see it very often. I have to say I was very impressed with this, more so with the tape version, because it's a single load, it's snappy, it's quick to get into, and the disc version has to load the menu. load of games. When you're after them, it just feels a bit more laborious. So the tape version, if that's what I was playing, just felt a better version of this, just because you want that immediacy. I wasn't very good at it because I'm not very good at rugby. I got my ass handed to me time and time again, but I had fun playing it and could see that it was my skill level letting me down, not the game being unfair. I found that, I tried and tried. There was moments when I managed to get some passes and plays going and nearly scored a try, but I didn't quite get there. And I like the way that the rooks and the scrums work, and that waggle is one of the few times that waggle actually works quite well. There's some really nice sort of presentational touches, and it's easily the best rugby game we've played. And I would recommend taking a look at this to see just how the C64 can do these games, by giving the developers the time and space to produce it. Really good stuff. I was impressed. Well worth at 84%, maybe even a sizzler. I think in terms of what we have here, you're not going to get a better rugby game, I think, on the C64, probably. And so I think at this point in time, why not you give it a sizzler, because it's probably the best in class that we've had. I don't know. What did you think?
I didn't rate it that highly, but that's not that it was bad. It's okay. It's just a bit bitty. Everything about it felt a little bit bitty. I don't know why, if yours was different to mine in some way, but I wouldn't say it was particularly smooth scrolling. It was kind of a bit stop-start. The action was good in the rugby itself. And there's no argument about the way it looked in terms of controlling the players. That was a lot better than the previous rugby game. But it just felt a little bit rough around the edges, a little bit unfinished in places. But I think in reality, what had been given over in terms of the look and feel of it, which is a little bit scrappy here and there, had been probably pushed into the gameplay, which was kind of all there. So I thought it looked a bit scrappy around the edges, but it's probably the best rugby game on the system. And there are parts I quite liked. The players and the functionality of the game, disc or tape, really, it didn't really bother me either way. It felt that you could really get into a good game of rugby in it. I just think you just have to accept that it's not going to necessarily look the best. It doesn't look quite as polished and as slick as, say, some of the American football games that we've come and seen over the time of the podcast. So I think as sports games go, it's a little bit rough around the edges, but it's got all of the component parts of the game itself, which I suppose is the important part. It's streets ahead of the other rugby game, only in the sense that I think that one had a little bit more of the idea around presentation of the game, but it lacked the rugby in it. And so I think a good amalgamation of these two would have been a good thought, but it's certainly the best rugby game on the system that we've played. I just don't think it has the razzmatazz and the slickness, even on disc, of some of the better American football games that have come along, fourth and inches and things like that. But it isn't bad for that. But it is a bit pricey at this end of the C64's life as well, when it's not really a licensed thing. So it's coming along at an unusual price point, but it is a good sports game. And if you're wanting to play a good sports game, this is kind of an Emlyn Hughes-y type vibe of, because that was good, but that was kind of a little bit rough around the edges as well. But it still played an amazing game of football. I think this is what I'm saying about this, is that it's a great game of rugby. Just don't expect world-class graphics or world-class presentation, because it's not quite there with that. But the rest of it's pretty good. I had fun with what I played with it. I found the menu system was just a little bit weird. Stacking icons and sort of cycling through them was a little bit old hat for me, but I was soon playing rugby and it was quite good fun when I got to it. I enjoyed playing a game of, it was New Zealand versus Australia, which is always an interesting one to try. And I will say this, in the previous rugby game, they were all, clearly injected with, racehorse serum. This one, it's not like that. This one does feel like there's a better balance of players. They're not all just able to take off with the ball and run like an Olympiad. No, there is some strategy around it, and that does give it an extra dynamic. So I liked the way it played, not so keen on necessarily the way it looked 100%. It felt a little bit scrappy-do, but still, a good rugby game is a good rugby game, so fair play.
There you go. Cool. That's our first one this week. World-class rugby. It is, as I think we can agree, the best one on the system, and I think that's where we are. So we still have another game to get to in this part, so let us move along to that. And Graham, it's over to you, and there's no time like crime time.
No, there probably isn't. So this is an unusual thing, this. And this was 47% in Zapped. Now, they said it had no price. I found a copy of the box. This is a German game, essentially, produced and published by a German software company, developed by a German team, and I think released probably only in Germany. And I'm not even sure how big a release it was. But either way, it's on the box for Germany, and I think it was Deutschmark at the time, if that is a German price. It was priced on disc at $49.99 on disc in Deutschmark, and that equates to about between 14 and 20 quid in the UK. So, but I don't think this ever got released in the UK, as in, because even Zapped, although they review it, there's literally no version of this I could find. This was all created in English, by the way, and as we'll go to explore, Bike Riders, who developed this, principally developed German games, mostly German. Anyway, so this was published by Starbyte Software. Now, we won't really have come across them, and in all likelihood, we're probably never going to come across them. They generally released quite a lot of stuff in Germany and over in that kind of scene that we've not really leaned into, which is the 64 CP Verlag produced sort of magazine stuff that was happening around Germany at the time. And there was a lot of stuff coming out of that particular sort of, I guess you call it sort of scene, for want of a better description, really. And so they've produced a lot of games from a few in 1990, but later in 1992 and 93. And in fact, they're actually quoted as, I think, producing one of the last official games on the C64, which was last published official game, which was something called Fly Harder, I think. But again, don't quote me on that. We'll come back to that at some point. So this was developed by Bike Riders. It was coded by Sebastian Brohammer. Now, Sebastian Brohammer is these are all, as I'll explain, these are all sceners, demo sceners, really, and you can sort of tell. But he was responsible for a series of games which we've never looked at. So in here, you've got Brubaker, Deneb, Hazar, Logan Part 1, Space Warrior, there's the Yawn, there's a few of them. Heroes and Cowards, which is 2015, believe it or not. So we've never really looked at any of them because they've never been in the pages of Zapped. A lot of these are Golden Disc 64, Magic Disc 64 or 64 are produced. We were never going to see them because they were specifically in Germany. It was also programmed by somebody called Steve Coops. Steve Coops, again, same sort of credit list as the previous guy, worked on Logan Part 1 and the Yawn and things like that. And the graphics here are by Example Architectures. Now, Example Architectures is actually Michael. I'll come back to it. Michael, I can't think of his name, but he's basically the brother of the guy that did the music for Gordian's Tomb. So that's his brother.
Okay. Okay.
So he also did the graphics. Example Architectures did the graphics for Gordian's Tomb as well. The musician here is Stefan Hartwig. We've seen him before in Turrican and Turrican 2, although obviously Chris Hulsbeck gets the press for them. I think Stefan Hardwick did some of those for the C64, maybe. Box art is Kalal Kandmaroglu, which we've also seen before, I think, again, with some of those German releases. This was out on DOS, Amiga, Atari ST, and C64. And let's talk about the story, really. Now, there's a long-winded story, which I'm not going to read. I'll just summarize it. Two friends, Mark, whom you play in the game, and Roger set off on a hitchhiking holiday in Europe. Roger's idea to save money for beer and cigarettes. After hours without a ride and caught in heavy rain, with the narrator's tent forgotten at home, they end up in a small-town hotel with barely enough money for a night's stay. Roger amuses himself by breaking the TV remote, while Mark, the narrator, drinks at the bar until he is told to leave. Gets very drunk. Confused and drunk, the narrator tries to enter their room, but it's the wrong one. Bursting in, he's struck on the head and waits to find himself soaked, lying next to a bullet-riddled corpse. The bystanders assume he's the killer. With little time before the police arrive, he must prove his innocence and find the real murderer. Okay?
Interesting.
And so begins your somewhat pointless and click journey. This game is a product of a combination of things. It's principally coded by demo sceners of the time in the shape of, like I said, Sebastian Brohammer. He is also known as Basti, Steve Coops. That's the Bike Riders part, with graphics from Michael Detert, that's his brother of Thomas Detert. These guys had a bunch of intros, demo makers, and scene stuff, and games also at that point, the greater percentage of which, like I said, unreleased, mostly in German, some translated to English, but mostly German. And Crime Time actually follows in the line of a few of those types of games that they made, so they've kind of specialized in these kind of adventures, including a game called Logan Part 1, they never did release Part 2, and one called The Yawn, which I think is an adventure Mickey take of the porn. I think this was their only game that they did for the Amiga and PC, or DOS at the time, and whatnot, so I remain unsure how this ended up in the hands of Zapped, actually. And also, say where it was, I don't think it was released, so I'm not sure how Zapped got it or why they got it. And like I said, most of the output from these guys was Golden Disc 64 or the CP Verlag, all the German roots. So just somehow it appeared on the desks of Zapped. Anyway, the premise of the game is the premise, as I've said. This is basically a point-and-click text adventure game, really, though one restricted to you choosing directions and actions via a joystick-controlled arrow and a kind of compass point text selection UI. The game starts with a demo-like scrolling message and image and some loud, demo-like and somewhat mismatched music. Once you click start, the game begins and the loud version of Miami Vice theme will soon overwhelm your ears.
Oh, that's what it was. It was bugging me for ages what that bloody music was.
Yeah, again, it's good, but just misplaced and really loud. Really loud in a game like this, when subtlety would be the order of the day. Mm-hmm. Once you're in the game, the top half of the screen are the still views of the rooms and locations you're in at that time, or locations that you play into, and with text, statements and dialogue popping up in boxes at that point. Underneath on the bottom left, the compass UI, this is the compass UI, and then a series of command statements: examine, use, activate, take, open, talk, to, close, and show. To the right of that, the view is split into two text areas. On the top are the objects, items, doorways, and things that are in your environment, or things to do, pick up, whatever. And underneath that are your inventory items, keys, the backpack you've got, Walkman, and headphones, things like that. The principle here, instead of them kind of more LucasArts style point and click, here you just point at the actions with the dialog boxes giving you the outcome of what you're doing. Then in the tradition of these things, you go from location to location, room to room, compass point to compass point, looking for things to interact with and other things, people to talk to, things like that, puzzles to solve, things to help you on your adventure. It's a text adventure without having to type in the text, essentially.
Yes, it is.
This is all in English by design, from what I could ascertain. So there is a definite adult theme to the content in here as well, and a tongue-in-cheekness to the dialogue. I'll be honest, I don't think the human premise have really translated very well over time, especially the tone and the vibes. They're all a bit of a misfire at this point in the world. So it's just, I'm not sure that the humour's going to come across to anyone who isn't a scener or didn't know anyone who was in these groups. There's an entire diatribe at one point about cracking games and what happens to them and stuff like that. So it's a bit of there's a lot of inside jokes, I think, here. From the from a looks point of view, there's quite nicely drawn graphics here and there. Some of the locations do end up looking a bit samey though. One staircase looks pretty much like another staircase in this game, but there's a lot of demo style shading here. The game has a look of somebody that had created a lot of demo scene logos, lots of dithered shading and clever use of dithers.
So much dithering.
Essentially, the game is then you moving amongst the spaces and the rooms, looking to find ways to ultimately prove your innocence, making choices and such via the medium of arrow and text selection. Not exciting, really, that. Moving the joystick around like this is a pain over time, and the selections can be too picky as well, bit clicky-picky. Plus, you can often find yourself having to go back to the actions panel to then go back to the other panel for some kind of minor semantic error. Use and activate are two primary examples of that logic, where you'll say activate something, but it's different to use something. Usably, use with what? Oh, for goodness sake. Though the upper images are drawn okay, like I said, there's a bit of loading with this. And with little to no animations or anything up there either, the game quickly becomes tiresome as you just move from place to place, wisecracking or struggling to make much sense of the controls or the scenarios or any of the jokes, which don't land at all. The music is really annoying. I'd suggest you turn it off because it will drive you crazy. And it's weirdly out of place. It's quite extraordinary, actually. I don't know what thought processes would go through someone's mind to put a really loud version of the Miami Vice theme to a game where you're potentially a victim, or let's just say you're badly accused, or you're looking to prove your innocence by sneaking around a building. This music just doesn't suit that at all. It's completely wrong.
Nope.
So as engineered as this game is with demo scene credits, and all those are fully intact with all the demo scene graphics look and feel and that big scrolly thing at the start, and this is very much written by people that made some intros, you can tell. This feels less like a game that people would have paid real money for and more like a side projects of some relatively talented demo scene coders that actually did meet and form this company at a demo scene party. Oh. So I didn't enjoy this experience. I mean, I'm a huge fan of point-and-click games, but the benchmark for point-and-click games on the C64 is so very, very high. Only a fool would try and release something in that genre when you are competing with Maniac Mansion and Zapped McCracken. Just off the top of my head. I mean, there's probably more, but those two are the kind of the ones that people go to, aren't they?
Yeah, Neuromancer as well.
And Neuromancer. Maniac Mansion is still mentioned in the top 10 games of all time on the system in most top 10s. It's in there.
Yeah.
So, like I said, when you've got a benchmark that high, you can't really release something that's a little bit of a hybrid of something like The Pawn, which is a text adventure, but trying to fill it with a sort of a point-and-click sort of sentimentality. And in one sense, if you like these kind of games, and you're tired of just typing in endless statements and getting nowhere with that, which is a complaint that we've said about adventure games. This does limit the semantic choices to things that you've got a limited palette of options, which means that you're not going to get as frustrated by typing in pick up object. I can't see an object. Move object. What object? Go to object. Where is the object? Go north. There is an object. Pick up the object. What object? Oh, get die.
I don't understand that.
I don't understand that. Wait. You have been eaten by a bear. That kind of thing.
These piffling bears.
It's piffling bears. So that's people are tolerant of that, and maybe with a limited choice palette, maybe these games are a little bit more interesting to get into. I don't know. I couldn't get past the loud music and the crappy gameplay feel. I like point and click games to have actual point and click. I click in the environment and the person in it at least moves. I mean, the Scrum engine on the C64, Scum engine, beg your pardon, may not be perfect, but it's pretty good at allowing you to create those adventures. And we know that there's problems with the logic and we know all of that. But at the same time, this game also has plenty of problems. I never got far into it enough to find them, but according to a couple of the Lemon reviews in the comments, this game is replete with problems and logic problems, and you can get stuck in short timelines and death loops, and you can get stuck in all the common problems that these kind of adventures have if you don't plan them properly. So this isn't really point and click anyway. I guess it's kind of I don't know. You do point and click in it, I suppose. There is that. Can't argue with what you actually do. You do point and you do click. But any game could be classed as point and click if that's really, isn't it? I suppose. But again, this is a text adventure with a mouse-controlled flavour, then recrafted to joystick at best. Nothing really works together, does it? Nothing melds together with this. Maybe the story gets side-splittingly funny as you progress through it. Maybe there's a deeper level of adventure game in here. I doubt it, though. There aren't loads of locations in it for a start. I don't think Maniac Mansion or Zack McCracken or Neuromancer or any of those got anything to worry about with this. It's a bit of a novelty demo scene intro makers game. And I imagine amongst that group, they probably thought it was good fun. But as a general release for a game, I don't think so. What about you?
No, it seemed like an interesting point and click adventure at first, once it got going. A bit unusual. But then, you're wandering around a hotel. I read the manual sort of thing. It's like, if you've been accused of a crime, you've got a lot of freedom. It's like, I thought it was searching for the crime at first, that it already happened. It had already happened, but it didn't seem like anyone was particularly bothered. No. Anyway, I'm not sure. I read the manual. The start of the game just seemed to have little to do with it. We have the music, the intrusive, unstoppable music. Yeah. Just did my head in after about 2 minutes. Yeah. Why is it
That's
there?
6 minutes long, that music. 6 minutes long.
God, after 2 minutes, I was like, no more. Yeah. We talk about music not fitting the games. Great. This is a great example of that. What were they thinking? I don't get it. It just gets in the way of the atmosphere and ambience that should be being created. The tense puzzles, the moments that, music should be used sparingly and appropriately in these kind of games, not just stick the demo music you've done for Miami Vice on top and that will do. Just don't work. I thought the interface was fine. It reminded me more, if I remember rightly, of Labyrinth.
Yes, well, Labyrinth, you still move the characters with the joystick though.
Oh, you do, don't you? Yeah. But the sort of choice, the words at the bottom, I think that's what reminded me of it more.
The word wheels is similar, but it's supposed as the compass points. I think, if I think about it, it's probably a little bit more like, do you remember that detective game that we played, which was Accolade game, I think.
Maybe, vaguely.
I think it was an Accolade one. It was one of those American software, the people that did Hardball. Who were they?
Yeah, Accolade. Not the one that I couldn't get running. Was it Murder on the Mississippi?
No, although that is much better than this. No, but that was because that is proper point and click, or more like a point and click because you're moving people around unless you don't. But no, I'm thinking more there was a detective game where you sort of went from room to room and it just felt a little bit more like that.
Killed Until Dead.
Yeah, it felt a little bit more, it wasn't nearly as good as that, but it felt a little bit.
No, it's not.
That kind of idea.
Yes, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So it's and if you're taking that, but it is an adventure game stripped of the parser and just given here's your commands, here's the things you can interact with, and so okay. I thought the visuals were all right. They do get a bit samey. Everything runs smoothly. I mean, there's loading sign, but I managed to solve that puzzle with the so-called chess expert. The little issue, it's just because you just whatever. But my problem was my adventure game reticence appeared. I got told I couldn't do stuff once too often in this as well. It's like, what are you doing? Don't do that, bozo. And I was like, I'm spoiled for this. I'm not the person to really comment on whether this is a good point and click adventure. To me, it seemed okay, but after listening to you, clearly, it's probably not. If it wasn't for that annoying music, maybe it'd be a bit better if it had a bit more atmosphere and a bit more enjoyment to it. But, I don't know if even this is one for the fans of this type of thing. It's certainly not for me. No. I didn't enjoy it. 47% seems about right for this. Seems just a bit rubbishy. No, not for me.
It's not in the big book of point and click stuff that's, the famous bitmap book, which is amazing. It's not in there. It's not mentioned in that at all. And when you think about the Maniac Mansion, and you think about Zapped McCracken, they've got cutscenes and all sorts in them that this just simply doesn't have any of that. So I don't know really how effective that is.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't have. It's not very good. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It doesn't have these kind of. It doesn't have the polish. It's all very static. And it is an adventure game, not a point and click.
Yes, I think that's and if you look at it that way and you turn the music down, maybe you get something more from it.
Yeah, but I think those things are comments on Lemon as well, where you can be dead man walking and not realize it because you haven't done a certain thing, or certain things happen at certain times and stuff. Yeah. That's bad design. Shouldn't happen.
And they never happen again either. It says they're one-offs, which is pretty bad.
Yeah, that is pretty bad. So there we go. That's Crime Time. Crime Time. It is a crime. That's what Crime Time is. So, right, there we go. We're going to go away, take a quick break. It's hot here. It's so hot this evening. Hope this is the end of the hot times this summer, but it is hot. So I'm going to go take a drink. We'll see you again very shortly. Stay with us.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Crash landing on a green planet full of vector graphics, can Sarah find a way to escape for real? Or is she stranded on a planet full of sun, sea, and chippy tea forever? Imagine finding yourself in a cinematic karate game, having to rescue a princess, or remain stuck under the run-stop key forever. What about finding yourself on a space freighter full of robots? Could you clear the decks? If you were transported back to a Wild West town, having to round up outlaws, could you survive until sunset? What if you were a wizard with a cat who must colour worlds? Could you beat the game, or would a virtual guitar solo announce your demise? Sarah might just be another visitor, but she doesn't want to stay a while, never mind forever. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, discover if there's a way out in Escape from the Commodore 64. Visit davidhearnwriter.com to find out more.
And we're back. We're back with what was going on. What were we watching, both on TV and at the cinema? December 1991. It's obviously the Christmas time. But on the 3rd of December, Channel 4 aired the controversial documentary The Holy Family Album as part of its Without Walls series.
Okay.
This was a television documentary written and narrated by Angela Carter. It was broadcast on the UK's Channel 4, 3rd December, as part of the Without Walls series, commissioned by Valdemar Januszczak. And the documentary treats representations of Christ in Western art as if they are photographs in God's photo album.
Okay.
That's going to cause, people aren't going to like that. According to John Ellis, the programme caused considerable controversy and was criticised in an editorial in the Times, even before it was transmitted. Of course it would be. It was featured in Channel 4's review programme Right to Reply, and a complaint to the Broadcasting Standards Council was not upheld, though. However, it has not been retransmitted or published since Angela Carter's death in 1992.
No surprises really there that, when you come into the, what is essentially a very holy month for a lot of people, if you produce a programme that's deliberately provocative of their deity, that it causes trouble for them. Funny that.
Yeah.
When you do that.
Yeah. Probably won't cause much of a stir these days, but back then.
I don't know. The problem is these kind of things have become tolerated for certain religions, but other religions not so much.
Maybe. Yeah, you may be right there.
Back then. There was a lot of it back then, though. I think the 90s, mid to mid-90s, we had quite a lot of films and programs and things. There's some controversial films came out, books. I think there was just a lot of that. Maybe it was a dialogue that was happening in amongst various different deep thinkers, and maybe this is just sometimes these things play out in the media, don't they? In the TV and film land and magazines and articles and things like that. But
indeed,
it seems like an odd choice of things. Not for Channel 4, it doesn't, but you can imagine. It gets to December and we're going to put that on. You're like, oh, really? Come on,
put it on in the summer when people aren't too fussed.
Well, not even that. It's nowadays you'd be dog whistling at. It's the dog whistling thing, isn't it? Channel 5 would be famous for shows like this, but not necessarily about religious controversy. but they're just famous for putting on shows that, rich house, poor house, rich holiday, poor holiday, just programs that deliberately cause provocative controversy in order to get people to watch them.
Yeah. Anyway, 4th of December, ITV shows the network television premiere of the 1988 comedy film Big, starring Tom Hanks. But I probably think this is my favourite of the body swap films. It's a bit weird in places. It went in a sort of modern lens maybe, but I really like Big. I liked it at the time. I think it's quite a sweet film. You think Freaky Friday is better?
The original Freaky Friday was the original film of this type, Disney film. I think it's got a very young...
Jodie Foster in it, hasn't it?
Jodie Foster, I think, in it. I think it is. They've remade Freaky Friday about a dozen times now. I think there's about 6. In fact, there's a sequel recently. Yeah.
There's a new one coming out, even Freakier Friday or something. Another Freaky Friday or the Freaky Friday again or something. But yeah, that is coming out soon. 16th of December, ITV's Central airs the final episode of Prisoner's Cell Block H, making it the first ITV region to complete the series. Who knew?
Yeah, I suppose somebody had to.
I know. Who knew it was a race?
Who knew it had an end?
No one knew it had an end.
Well, I needed to know things because I never saw that. By this point, I used to watch it pretty regularly. Weirdly enough, I used to watch it with my mum. Just it was on, and it was it was different, wasn't it? It was during, we talked about it before, but anyway, I thought, what happened at the end? What happens in that final episode? And it turns out, I thought, what main characters? Because the ones I remember was like B. Smith, and anyway, they're not in it. The main characters of consequence in the final episode were Joan the Freak Ferguson, who was the corrupt, sadistic prison officer who became the show's longest-running antagonist. She debuted in 1982 in episode 287, which seems crazy that it went on for this long. And was still the central protagonist right to the end. In fact, she ends the series being sent into Wentworth Prison as a prisoner. So she gets sent down for being an evil psycho. Anne Reynolds, who was the governor of Wentworth, she was introduced in 1983 in episode 326. Goodness me. She's in charge during the finale and has a reform program approved. That's nice. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
And Meg Morris, old Meggie Meg, the prison guard, she was the only cast member who appeared in episode 1 back in 1979 to the very end in the last episode. She processes Joan, the freak Joan, as an inmate in the very last episode. So there you go. Crazy. So she was in it right the way through. Right. So
episode 1 was 1979.
Yep.
Right. Episode 287 was 1982.
Apparently.
Wow. They crammed them in.
I don't know how regularly they were making them. So this is from a website it was all from a website that's particularly it was like a fan site, so maybe it was just wishful thinking.
Yeah. I can't imagine that was like 3 years, 287 episodes. Well, that's more than one a week.
Well, it's episode 287. In episode 326 was in 1983. Maybe they just went through a phase of just make one a day.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
So the frequency of those may be wrong, but those characters were in it to the end. And so Joan the Freak Ferguson was finally put behind bars in the very last episode by the very person who was trying to catch her. The irony of that will never be lost on us.
There you go. Good old prisoner. Good old Central for seeing it through to the end.
So, yeah, all 7,770 episodes.
Absolutely.
That week.
Every time they were showing them one a day, and there was still more than they could ever show. The first example of generative AI.
Aye,
pumping them out. 20th of December, ITV airs Treasure Hunt, the final new episode of the long-running children's series Rainbow. The show continues to air until the 31st of December, though, but with repeats of previous episodes. Oh. This episode dealt with Bungle dreaming of searching for treasure in the jungle. I thought it could seem going out. It could seem going out on a high with such quality thing. There's a picture of him there, though. He's got a hat and gloves on. Why is he wearing gloves? He's a bear.
I don't know. He's probably made his palms sore, isn't he? We said he had leather palms.
Bungle palmed.
He bungle palmed somebody. Thing is, Bungle in the Jungle sounds like a boxing, doesn't it? That sounds because there was a rumble in the jungle. Bungle in the Jungle sounds like he was going to fight probably one of those famous boxers at the time. So it was him versus Frank Bruno.
Muhammad Ali.
Maybe that's why his hands are gloved, because he's just about to get his boxing gloves on. I also noticed in the picture that you posted that Zippy was wearing a matching outfit to his gloves. Why would Zippy wear the outfit but Bungle wear the gloves? And is that an 089 number? That's the question.
I don't know, but Zippy's looking on a bit confused. I don't know what's going on around his eyes. But maybe they just had one bit of material. And
Zippy wears the outfit while Bungle wears the gloves. 0898 555 333. I don't like the sound of that.
Would you like Bungle in your jungle?
0898. I don't know. It seems no coincidence that Prisoner Cell Block H and Rainbow ended on the same time. That can't be a coincidence. Something's going on. What happened? Did Rod, Jane and Freddie end up in Prisoner Cell Block H in the final one? Meg's putting them in there as well.
In Wentworth. Bungle's
come on, Freddie. Come on, Bungle. Get in there.
Maybe Bungle's wearing gloves to hide the fingerprints because he's committed a terrible crime.
Yeah, maybe he's top dog. Remember, one of them was the one that operated the trouser press, wasn't he? That's him. He ended up being B. Yeah, he was B. Smith's replacement. He was like, the last scene is him pushing the trouser press down.
Oh, Jeffrey, what have I done?
Oh, they'll have been there with him, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
and Zippy
absolutely.
in there trying to figure out how to get out, but you're never getting out, Zippy. Not for
Absolutely.
what you did.
Yeah, Zippy would want to keep his mouth closed, but he wouldn't be able to.
The zip's broken off at the side. Yeah, you're never closing that again. Get that pink hippo in here.
Yeah, George is like, oh, I like it in here.
I don't want to leave.
I've dropped the soap. They wouldn't go in anyway. It's a female prison. It's a women's prison.
They're puppets. They don't have. We don't know what was Bungle a guy. Was it? We don't. Do we know? Do we know? Actually, this is a genuine question. What the hell was Bungle? Was he male? Was he female?
Was it a male bear? He had a male voice.
Well, in this kind of crazy world, he can identify as whatever he likes, can't he?
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
He could be whatever
you be
he wants.
you. You be you, Bungle. You be you. Just be, prepared to be bungle palmed.
Bungled.
You're going to get bungled. And
Zippy's going to get zipped.
His smile's never going to leave him. And George was always happy, wasn't he? Pink hippo.
He would be very happy. 24th of December, though, Christmas Eve highlights on BBC One include the terrestrial premiere of the 1988 Christmas comedy film Scrooged, starring Bill Murray.
Yeah.
That's a good Christmas Eve film, Scrooged.
Well, it's a riff on Christmas.
Yeah,
Carol,
Christmas Carol. Yeah, it's Christmas Carol. So Christmas Carol is always a good, whatever the story, it's always a good.
Yeah, it's set on Christmas Eve. I mean, that's
why it's a good Christmas Eve movie. That's my point.
Yeah. I think I actually, obviously, it is a classic. I think I felt on the last time I watched it, which was probably Christmas Eve just gone. I think it feels a little bit lost now when you watch it. I don't know. I think there's been a lot of versions of obviously that particular story from different, and also you've got Muppets Christmas Carol, and I think that's better as a Christmas Eve movie.
Oh, controversial statement. Controversial.
And I think it's just a better version of that and funnier. But I think that's probably because Bill Murray's comedy hasn't aged so well, whereas the Muppets kind of never age a little bit. I think they're always going to be a bit advantageous in that way because they're silly. It's their silly slapsticky type humour, isn't it, with talking chickens and whatnot. And that's always going to have a bit. I mean, that's always going to be a funny thing. Bill Murray's kind of rant at the end of it is okay, but when you watch it now, you're like, it's a bit dated. No, it's a bit.
The sentiment's still there, man. The sentiment's still there.
Yeah, that part is. But I think Bill Murray is what makes that film feel older and firmly planted in the 80s sort of mindset. It's not overly critical of it. It's still funny in its way, but it's just got superseded by Muppets, unfortunately.
For me, it's Blake Carrington that dates it in the 80s.
Yeah, well, the cast, and the sort of tonality of the family in it, they're struggling, and it's all of that. Although it still makes me laugh when that woman comes back flipping in. She plays Tiny Tim, doesn't she? And she comes back flipping in, and that is quite funny. But no, okay,
that was that. There was also the first part of Only Fools and Horses episode Miami Twice. So this was part one, The American Dream. It was the first part of the 1991 Christmas special Miami Twice airing. It had a viewing figure of 14.9 million. Yep. Basically, the Trotters go on holiday to Miami in Florida, only for Derek Delboy Trott to be mixed up with a doppelganger who is also a mafia boss on a trial for drug running, kidnapping, and 3 murders. For me, at this point, Only Fools and Horses was well past. This was, like we said earlier on, this was the bread that had gone stale.
Yes, I agragree.
It's well past its sell-by date at this point, Only Fools and Horses. And the milk. I mean, 14.9 million watched it, and I probably watched it as well, because probably in. But I can't remember it being particularly great.
No, it's not. And for exactly the reason you say, because when they started to take Del Boy out of the East End,
Peckham,
and Peckham, and make it a silly, extended series into Florida and doppelgangers and mafia, that isn't Only Fools and Horses, No. And you're getting into carry on your holidays, carry on camping territory where it just becomes fish out of water humour, and that isn't what Only Fools and Horses wasn't. He wasn't a fish out of water. He was very much a person of his place. And that was the funny, he was just a funny guy trying to make his way, doing a bit of a swindler, and all the rest, a bit of a Del Boy. And that's the funny thing. And they didn't need to extend it to Florida. Just do more of that.
Yeah.
It works perfectly well for that. It would have just been funny, And I agree with you completely. This is just where it really lost its way.
Yeah. And they did do episodes where they went away, like the Jolly Boys trip to Hull was really good. And also the one where they go to Spain and when Rodney wins the art competition, but it's submitted as his 12-year-old painting. So Rodney has to pretend to be a 12-year-old.
Yes.
That's great Only Fools and Horses comedy. But having a mafioso gang boss doppelganger is just stupid.
No. And at Christmas, it's gone a bit serious. You don't bring the mafia and drug running and kidnapping and murder into Only Fools and Horses at Christmas. It's like, why would you do that?
No, exactly.
No.
Also, there was the 1987 thriller No Way Out, starring Kevin Costner, Gene Hackman, and Sean Young. This is not a Christmas movie.
No, break out your tinsel and your crackers for that one. Sit there with your sugar jelly sweets, going mental on the sugar overdose you inevitably having, your body weight of Quality Street inside you, and then that comes on. You're like, oh, I can't move because I'm so physically food deformed, but I don't want to see that. I'm going to have to somehow make my eyes close, but the sugar is keeping them open. Oh, the sugar.
No, I must watch Kevin Costner and Gene Hackman, Sean Young in a rather average thriller.
No.
Yep. 25th of December, Christmas Day highlights on BBC One include the second part of the episode Miami Twice. Is what it is. We've just spoken about that. BBC One also showed the terrestrial television premiere of Tim Burton's blockbuster 1989 film Batman.
The Christmas movie, maybe? I suppose it's snowy in places, isn't it?
That's Batman 2. That's Batman Returns, sorry.
No, is there no snow in this one?
No, not really. No, this is not a Christmassy film. But I can see, this is a big Christmas film at the time, though. It's a big film.
Yeah, it's
so I can see why they showed it.
Yeah. I imagine it's cut to pieces, isn't it?
Probably some of the violence, probably. But they also showed John Landis's 1988 comedy film Coming to America, starring Eddie Murphy.
Well, that'd have been after 9 o'clock.
Yeah, probably. ITV Network film premieres include the classic 1940 animated Walt Disney film Pinocchio.
Ooh, no, I have problems with that.
Yeah, and the 1988 action-adventure sequel Crocodile Dundee 2, starring Paul Hogan.
God, they got the shit end of the stick that Christmas, didn't they?
People are watching BBC, aren't they, at this point?
Crocodile Dundee, poo. Pinocchio, I think that's a very dark and disturbing film, Pinocchio, the animated one.
Right.
Consider Lampwick's transformation into a donkey and think of that as full-on body horror. He thrashes about, his hands become hooves, and he screams for his mother in a horrific scene, all while Pinocchio watches in terror. Happy Christmas, everyone. It does. It's horrible. Pinocchio is a dark, twisted animation. It really is horrid. And I would strongly recommend you watch it again, but think of it less like a charming kid story about a wooden puppet that turns into a real boy. Think of it as a body disfigured or a body dysmorphic person that's trying to transform their body through horror, and think of it in terms of a horror movie, and you'll actually see that it really is a horrific film.
It is. It also inspired the recent game, Lies of P, Soulsborne type game, which is bloody great. It's an excellent game. Starts off as I want to be Bloodborne, but quickly becomes its own thing. And is if you like those Soulsborne games, I know we don't talk about modern games very often, but if you do, it's free this month if you're listening to this on PlayStation Plus, I think. So it's one of the free games of the month. So if you've got PlayStation Plus,
get that. How much does PlayStation Plus cost?
I don't know. I think it's a tenner a month, £12 a month, something like that. And you get the access to the catalogue as well and stuff like that. So, if you just want a quick play of it, it's there. I've got to play the DLC, which has come out for it at some point as well. Yeah. But the main base game I found fantastic. In fact, it's one of the very, very few games I got every achievement for on the Xbox. I absolutely, I rinsed that game because I don't very often, but I absolutely loved it. I thought it was brilliant.
My lad was raving about that, and another recent game, the what's it called? Something 33 or
Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Again,
he 100%ed that and was raving about that.
I've nearly finished that. I've nearly finished the main run through. Again, I think that there's a thematic consistency between Claire Obscure and Lies of P. The music in them is very similar, and there's kind of a feel to them, both of them. Probably because they both use the Unreal Engine, which gives them a certain look. But there's something about that kind of, I mean, one's from South Korea and one's, I think, French, but I could be wrong. But they just have a feel about them that's just different. There's just a really good feel to the pair of them. So,
do you guys? Have you watched any of the new series of Love, Death and Robots on Netflix?
I haven't watched any of those. I should get around. I need to get around to them at some point.
Well, the reason I mention that is because in the latest season, there's a couple of episodes in there. One of which is got is a cat. It's quite funny. I won't spoil it for you, but one of them's got a cat in it, and the other one is like a bit like. Do you remember the Creature Comforts animation? It's a bit like that, but with household appliances. However, when you watch them both, in your mind, watch them both. They're both made with the Unreal Engine, and I'll leave that there. Then watch them, and you'll be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that reminds me. Have you seen that? Yeah, have you seen that new cat film, Flow?
I haven't seen the film, no.
No, but have you heard of it? Have you heard of it?
No. I think I've heard maybe seen a trailer or something.
It's done entirely in Blender.
Yeah, crazy good.
So it's like these tools, which are, out there for everyone. There you go.
Well, I didn't realise that the new Unreal Engine now does hair, which is why.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
But when you see, like I said, when you watch that, because Love, Death and Robots is obviously it's loads of short animated films, but some of them around the theme of games. They also did the other series, which was based purely on games, where they reimagined. There's a crazy one about Pac-Man and stuff like that. They're all really good, but yeah, just when you watch it, you'd be like, that's done with the Unreal Engine. Honestly, it's mind blowing.
Yeah. Well, you were on about the sorry about this, listeners. Obviously, we're just talking modern games, but you mentioned the opening to Claire Obscure, didn't you? You said it was weird watching Evangeline Lilly and Robert.
Oh, totally them people.
It's Pattinson. Yeah, it is them, but it's incredible. I mean, the facial animation and the visuals on those cutscenes in Claire Obscure.
Very emotional. I imagine you feel a lot more emotional if you've played the game up to that point and done all of the stuff you need to do to get to that point. But anyway, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. I was impressed with it visually, but I've never played the game. But my lad, he was raving about that, so it must be good.
Yeah, it is very good. Anyway, where are we? Crocodile Dundee 2.
Which isn't good.
Not as good as the first one.
No.
However, in an unusual move for a pre-recorded series, though, the royal Christmas message is integrated into the first of the day's episodes of Coronation Street on ITV. Character Alf Roberts sat down in front of his television, watched the speech in its entirety, and the episode resumed. I found a link to that, so you can actually watch that. So we'll post that and you can have a look. Details of plans, though, to include the Queen's speech in the episode were leaked a few weeks prior to Christmas, raising concerns that the BBC may attempt to outdo their ITV rivals with their own Christmas Day surprise. But Granada Television decided to go ahead with the idea anyway. Don't actually say whether the BBC did do anything. I presume they didn't.
No, I think later down the line they did something similar, but I mean, how are they going to do it? They're going to have Prince Charles walk on the set of EastEnders and go, Grant, Phil, do. There we go.
Well, the Queen does a live speech that's different to the one pre-recorded. This is the real speech.
I like the Queen when she did that Olympics thing or whatever it was that she did. Yeah.
Oh, the one with James Bond and stuff.
Yeah, that was classy.
And Paddington and things.
Yeah, it was good.
And finally, Postman Pat returned to the BBC One with 2 10th anniversary special episodes, one on Christmas morning and the other in the new year. This was Postman Pat Takes the Bus. Postman Pat takes a party of Greendale residents to Ingledale in the new Royal Mail Post Bus.
Exciting stuff for Postman Pat.
Christmassy. Yeah. 26th of December, Boxing Day highlights on BBC One include All for Love, a feature-length episode of Bergerac.
Oh, God.
Which served as a series finale. This was called, it'd been going for 10 years at this point. It was called, include All for Love. No, actually, this isn't the right one. This is the one that was actually aired, according to IMDb, something called There for the Picking. Anyway, I don't know. There was also the 1988 hit comedy film A Fish Called Wanda, starring John Cleese and Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah,
funny at the time. Hasn't aged well at all. Fish Called Wanda, the humour in it. No,
I haven't watched it in ages, so I don't know.
No, it's not. When you watch it, you're like, it's just some, but it just hasn't aged very well.
Okay. 31st of December, New Year's Eve highlights on BBC One include the network television premiere of Back to School starring Rodney Dangerfield.
Such a stupid film that is.
Yeah, but that diving bit, which I put a gif up there, never fails to crack me up.
Yeah, it's just so dumb.
It's so stupid, that film. But that bit did make me laugh. It's just his face. It's always good. The Year's End review programme, Clive James on 1991. There was also the network television premiere of the cult 1979 Australian thriller Mad Max on BBC Two, starring Mel Gibson. A harbinger portent for the new year, I feel.
Yeah, it seems a strange thing to want to see the new year in with, isn't it? A film about, essentially a bloodthirsty gang and a murdering of somebody's wife.
Yeah, it's a very different film for the rest, isn't it? Mad Max, the first one. It's a very different, tonally very different to the others.
Yeah, and in a weird way, if you think about it, it's a little bit like, think of the story of that and then think of Gladiator, where a guy's wife is murdered and he goes on a revenge spree to try and find them. Yeah, I suppose it's just a revenge movie, isn't it, really? But
yeah. Replace wife with dog and you have John Wick.
Yeah, you're going for like the giddy New Year vibes there, aren't you? Goodness me, nothing says New Year like watching someone's family get run down by motorbikes. Goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. New shows for the month. 1st of December, there was Tailspin. This is weird. This was a American animated television series from Disney. It features anthropomorphic versions of characters adapted from Disney's Jungle Book, which had been re-released in the summer before the show premiered in the fall. Notably Baloo the bear, Louie the orangutan, and Shere Khan the tiger, along with new characters created for the show. I'd never heard of it. I watched the theme song, didn't ring any bells.
Now, when you went through the premise, I'm like, actually, I do have a vague memory of it, but not good memories. I didn't like any of this Disney stuff that was coming out now.
No. 1st of December, there was also The Storyteller, Greek Myths. I'd never heard of this. This was originally started in 1987 as a Jim Henson sort of puppet show about myths and things like that. But this was a 4-part spin-off that didn't actually air in the US because they said it was too violent. But Netherlands and the UK got this this year. There's an episode I watched, Daedalus and Icarus, and of course Derek Jacobi is in it.
Of course he is.
Of course he is. And I presume you are not familiar with this either, because neither was I.
No.
Yeah, no. 8th of December, there was Red Fox, based on a book, 1979 novel, same name by Gerald Seymour. I wasn't going to watch this.
No thanks, although it's got a good cast, but no.
Yeah, 15th of December, there was Heroes 2, The Return. This is the sequel to the 1989 miniseries The Heroes, which makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Never seen it,
Which is a British-Australian miniseries about Operation Rimau.
I have a feeling I was absent. I was AWOL for December, I think. Wow, goodness, I've seen nothing.
20th of December, To Be the Best, television miniseries from a Barbara Taylor Bradford novel. No chance.
Nope.
Never
watch it.
No way.
Nope.
21st of December, there was Barrymore started. It's Barrymore. Never watched
light
it.
Entertainment.
24th of December, Father Christmas, adapting 2 books written by Raymond Briggs. Expect Snowman type vibes.
Yeah, totally that. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Nope.
25th of December, Brown Bear's Wedding was shown.
No.
This was a French film based on Martine Beck, a French psychotherapist, wrote some books about bears, and then they were adapted into 2 animated television films, Brown Bear's Wedding and White Bear's Secret. Nope. And the 28th of December, there was The Best of Friends, an epistolary play by Hugh Whitemore about the friendships of George Bernard Shaw, Sidney Cockrell, and Dame Laurentia McLaughlin. Posh Christmas stuff, this.
Yeah, absolutely. And what it made me realise when I looked at all that lineup is, firstly, I wasn't in December, clearly. But secondly, we were a specific demographic, and we were demographically absent from television because clearly TV did not know how to address. We were not 19 at the time. TV, they didn't know how to address that audience. They had the Word for a bit, which we talked about before, but there's nothing in that lineup for that age range. They just don't know what to do with it. They've got light entertainment, they've got the family favourites, they've got the usual things, they've got anime, kid stuff, but they simply do not know how to approach that audience. And it so clearly shows in that list of programs, but also if you look at the lineups of programs at the time, there's some of the classic comedies that we all came to like, but content for our age range, no wonder we weren't in, because we were not addressed by TV. We simply wasn't able to tackle our age group. It didn't have anything for us.
We'd kind of already switched in some way to choosing what we wanted when we wanted, because we'd just watch videos. We'd watch some films and stuff on video all the time.
Yeah, we watched a lot of videos. Obviously we knew a guy that would get a thing. We knew that guy, and we were also playing games. And you had your Amiga and stuff, and we were doing stuff like that. And we just weren't bothered by terrestrial TV. So this whole only recently, it wasn't a thing. I mean, it was started back then when you're like, as soon as you could control what you watched, we switched on to that. And we'd have been gigging musicians by this point, I think.
I don't know. I think we played our first gig around about Christmas 91, wasn't it?
I was going to say it. So I think, but I'm wondering why that's December is absent, because I'm wondering whether at that point, but just before that, we'd have been rehearsing with Craig, and when we went through that awkward phase of not knowing what music direction to take, and then once we kicked out the idiots of the band, rest in peace, Craig. We then, I think we did probably have our first gig around this time.
I think it was
around then.
I think it was Christmas 91. I think because it was Christmas Eve. I think, or was it Christmas? I can't remember. It was around 92.
It was definitely around then, which is what's making me wonder. Would think that's why we'd not seen anything in December. So. Yeah,
because I don't remember many of these films either. Films wise, there's not much. 6th of December, The Tales of Beatrix Potter. This is a weird re-release of the 1971 Royal Ballet film, The Tales of Beatrix Potter, from as far as I can see. I've watched the trailer. It looks weird. It looks quite creepy. Yeah. I don't like it.
Yeah, it is a bit odd. Now, I think because we've seen Eyes Wide Shut, so there's a very strong chance that they're all going to go to some mansion and start, having rampant sex with each other, and then play that weird music. What's the house password?
That's not the tale that Beatrix Potter wrote.
No, someone was getting potted.
Yeah. 13th of December, there was an American Tale, Fievel Goes West.
I despise that film.
Yeah, no, I didn't like these either. Addams Family, though, was out on that day as well, 13th December.
No, never liked it.
You don't like it? I really like the Addams Family film. So great casting in this. Raul Julia, Angelica Houston, Christopher Lloyd, Christina Ricci. So I think the casting is perfect. And I really liked it. I thought it was a great update of the original. Fun, great music as well.
And that was my problem, ultimately, is that I never liked the Addams Family particularly, even the original. I never thought it was very funny.
That's fair enough. You could have watched, though, London Kills Me. A young Londoner seeks to escape the drug scene by landing a waiter job, but his lack of proper footwear becomes a hurdle. The quest for shoes symbolises his struggle to break free from a world of addiction and vice. If you didn't guess, this is a Hanif Qureshi film.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't see that.
No, I didn't either. 20th of December is Suburban Commando. Hulk Hogan vehicle, isn't it? And it's still a hero from a distant world visits Earth and tries to fit in with a mundane yet kind suburban family. Yeah. I've never watched it. Never wanted to. It always looked terrible.
It's just another remake of that Harry and the Hendersons film. Exactly that. Just he's from space and it's Hulk Hogan. It's not. It's not a Bigfoot.
Yeah, true. There was also True Love. Never heard of it. I don't know who's in it. But 27th of December, though, if you wanted to welcome the new year in with a bit of fun, there was People Under the Stairs from Wes Craven.
Yeah.
I've not seen this in ages. I remember quite liking it at the time, but I don't know if it stands up.
It at the time.
Yeah, I don't know if it stands up, though.
It doesn't.
No.
It's dated.
Right. Okay. It probably has. I mean, I watched the trailer and went, that doesn't look good.
No. It's funny. Of all the horror movie eras that have aged the worst, I would say probably those early 90s horrors are some of the worst ones.
Yeah.
Yet they're the ones that they seem very keen to be remaking these days. But maybe
it's because the 80s ones and the 70s ones, but they just didn't have the ability to actually give that idea a proper sort of, do it credit. Maybe that's why, that's why they're remaking them or taking themes from them.
I think ultimately at that time, they were slaves to the studios a little bit with these. And so oftentimes the studios would interfere. So a film that would have been quite violent and quite gory and quite horrific had a lot of that toned down because they wanted to get it into a specific age range so they could make more money. And there was a dumbing of horror films that happened in the early 90s. And so, because we all of a sudden we went from having quite a lot of 18 and R-rated movies to very few, they were mainly 15s. So
yeah. And you can, and even the R-rated movies had to get thingy down. I mean, 18-rated films are very R in America, but because they didn't want the NC-17 rating in the States, did they? That was the thing.
No, but the thematics of this film, live on. Barbarian borrows a bit from that, but it's also cited directly by Jordan Peele as an influence in Get Out and Us. But there's also films like Don't Breathe, Ready or Not, which are all latterly 2010 onwards, I think, all of them. And that is that kind of, there is that very postmodernist type approach, actually, postmodern, really, of taking things from an era and looking back over them and recompartmentalizing them, and perhaps not. I don't like the term reimagine, because I think that does films like Get Out or Us any justice whatsoever, because they're amazing. But I think that I think what they do is they're taking those core themes, which are quite disturbed, and actually making them as disturbed as they should have been back then, where they were sanitized. And I think that's what you were sort of saying.
That's what I mean.
I completely agree with you, and that's no bad thing as long as they're not AI written horror movie scripts, which there's a lot of at the moment, and they're not very good.
There does seem to be that. Finally, if you didn't fancy People Under the Stairs, there was Curly Sue.
No.
John Hughes film. I've never watched this one though. Looks schmaltzy and saccharine based.
It is exactly that, and it's not. It's one of the final hurrahs for a minute, and it is very, 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 very produced.
Yeah.
Very.
Is Curly Sue a character? Is it based on a comic strip or something? Is it like I feel like I've heard the name.
I couldn't honestly tell you. Maybe, I don't know. I could have done more research into it, and I didn't.
No, neither did I. I just wondered. There you go. That's it. That's it for your Christmas viewing. We watched none of it, apart from People Under the Stairs. Maybe Scrooged. So that's it. Right, we're going to go away, take a quick break, come back with the last two games for 1991. That's it then, Graham. We're done. Let's go away and have that break.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Growing up in the 80s is a chore for Sarah, who feels misunderstood by her parents and badgered by Reese, her bothersome brother who incessantly prattles on about his treasured computer games. When Reese tells her one of the games tried to pull him inside the computer, she laughs off his fanciful fib. She waggles the joystick to disprove his fairy tale and is pulled into the computer. Now trapped in games she'd never had any interest in playing, how can she possibly beat them? With the help of feisty Nell, another trapped player, can Sarah find her way back home, or is it game over? An evil madman, a hostile planet, bloodthirsty robots, a never-ending throng of karate experts, and relentless digital soldiers will do their best to ensure Sarah never escapes. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, find out if there's a way out of the beige bread bin of betrayal for Sarah in Escape from the Commodore 64.
And for the final time this year, we are back and we've got two more games still to get through. So let's get to the first one of them. This is the last, or just last battle. There's no just last battle. This is from Elite, last battle. And it's getting to the point now, really, we're seeing the last games on the machine by some recognizable names. This is Elite Swan Song. It's final hurrah. It's rousing goodbye to the C64. And you would think with that in mind, surely they'd have spared no expense in making this a fitting tribute to their legacy on the machine, right? Maybe?
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. This was £10.71 though, an odd price. It got 43%. Yeah. So who's responsible for this? The developer here is Images Software, and the coder is one John Williams. We've seen him loads of times.
Yeah, he plays guitar and everything.
Breadth of this. He does play guitar. He did Night Games 1 and 2, Oink, Neutralizer, Back to the Future 2, Shadow Dancer. Next year, he does the supposedly very impressive First Samurai.
Oh.
He's a fairly dependable coder. Graphics are by Steve Bedser. And the music's by Neil Crossley. They both worked on the Tiny Spider-Man game, Back to the Future 2, Chip's Challenge, Hunt for Red October, Shadow Dancer, and something called G-Lock, which I think we'll see next year. But some decent visuals, decent music there, All right, it's good team. Last Battle then. What the hell is this? From the wiki. Last Battle, I thought this was an arcade game, but it's not. Okay.
No.
Last Battle, Legend of the Final Hero, is a side-scrolling martial arts beat-em-up released for the Mega Drive Genesis in 1989 by Sega. It was one of the 6 games that were available as part of the Genesis launch lineup in the US. The Japanese version, titled Hokuto no Ken Shinsekimatsu Kyoshu Densetsu,
well done,
which translates to Fist of the North Star, the new legend of the post-apocalyptic Messiah, is based on the manga and anime series Fist of the North Star, which is called Hakoto no Ken in Japanese. Since the international version did not retain the Hakoto no Ken license, the graphics and characters' names were altered. It was the second Hakoto no Ken game released by Sega following the Mark III original released internationally as Black Belt. Because the English localization of the game did not retain the Fist of the North Star license, the developers changed the names of all the characters as well as their fighting styles, although the plot is relatively unchanged. Also, the blood and gore from the original game was edited out of the Western localizations. In the original game, any of the normal enemies would have their heads explode, followed by their bodies in a bloody fashion, as well as some boss characters having more of a gory finishes to their fight. Grim. Last Battle, however, edited down the gore so the normal enemies would only fly off screen when hit, and many of the bloody animations for the bosses were removed, or some of the bosses were recolored to look more like mutants than humans.
Okay.
So it's a watered-down, sanitized Fist of the North Star knockoff.
It is.
There's a loading screen with the game's logo. It's quite nice. And the game starts, text-heavy title screen with the logo drawn in characters at the top. There's some music here, but only for the first time this appears, which is weird. After that, I never heard it again. I did try both the disc and the cartridge version. The cartridge version had a different intro. It has a big Elite logo, then the game logo, then the screen of credits, and then an image of your journey across some kind of map. And it's got a different piece of music playing. Don't know what that's all about, but pressing fire then brought up the same start as this version. So this version obviously cut off all that for whatever reason, but there is, there's a nice enough intro. There's nothing to do though after watching all this but press fire and start the game. And I mean, what do we say about this? The music stops and the so slow game begins. Our hero trudges on from the left, and despite the dire need for action, this is another hero who takes his time. He's not in a hurry. Saving the world or rescuing the damsel or whatever is going on can take its own sweet time. This is a game made by the Cadbury's Caramel Bunny Girl, I thought. At the top 2/3 of the screen are the game window and the oversized UI, which takes up the rest at the bottom. This shows your life as a big yellow bar, your score, the time remaining in the stage, and your power bar that increases as you punch and kill enemies. As noted, this is a 2D flat scrolling beat 'em up. Kung Fu Master, Shadow Dancer, Shinobi, Altered Beast. Altered Beast is, or any of them. You're in the right territory. That's what this is. There is a story to this, but it's not very. It's a kind of crazy story that makes no little sense. So it's something about you. You're the hero and you've got to go catch these things, but there's all kind of double crossing, and it's just been made. It's just a load of made up nonsense with loads of names that you won't recognize, and who cares? You've basically just got to go and kill some evil entity. It's just a load of crap. So our hero is a couple of sprites high, medium res. There's some attempts at some decent shading to him. I didn't think the sprites were too bad. They're a bit. I mean, on a CRT, they probably look a lot nicer. I think they have that blur to them. I think they'd work a bit better. The backgrounds though consist of some walls and doors, really flat looking, but with lots of shading. That's quite a technique. Everything looks like it's a flat. Like there's nothing behind them. You wouldn't believe there's anything behind those flat doors. There's a landscape of some sort. There's some nice parallax scrolling going on as you start to trudge your way through the level from left to right. Not much going on there, really, is there? It's a bit on the dull side. There's no music. No music, Graham. It's all very dull. Just a slow, remorseless sound of your trudging footsteps as you proceed. That's it. That's the enemies. So as you walk off from the left to the right, start scrolling, enemies start to fly in. Some fly in from the top, some climb out of the ground, some run in from the left or right. Your typical sort of enemies in these kind of games. Controls to defeat them are simple. Left and right for walking, up to jump, down to crouch. If you jump in, you press fire, you can do a jumping punch or kick. If you press diagonals, you can do a kick. If you if you push to the right and press fire, you do a punch. You can crouch and punch, and you're going to need to do that. It's your typical stuff. You walk along, punch stuff. Anything that comes towards you, don't get hit. If you get hit, it takes away your energy. So as you beat them away, they fly off screen. Like it said, no exploding heads. I had a look at the Genesis version. It's way better. There's loads of exploding heads and bodies, blood everywhere. These just fly off screen though. Fly back sort of and whatever. Your power bar slowly increases at the bottom of the UI. So this power bar, every time you punch someone, it increases. But it's massive. And it increases so slowly. So slowly. But the more you fill this up, it makes you more powerful for the boss fights in the game. So the more it is, the more damage you do to the bosses in the game, I think. That's what it says in the instructions. I don't know. At the end of the level, there's some weird stuff in this game, though, because at the end of each level, you kind of trudge along to the right, you beat a few enemies up, and then you just meet a character who's drawn in a different style, the high-res overlay. So it kind of, they look out of place. It's really weird. And then you share a line of stupid dialogue with them. And sometimes one of them just goes, I want to be a hero. I'm the hero here. And then that's it. It's like, what? Some of them may give you a bonus. They might increase your power slightly, or they'll restore your health back to full. You then leave the level, and at this point you get to that map. And here you can choose which way to go. You've got a small map, you've got some locations, usually a couple of locations you can go kind of to the right or down to the right, and picking a direction. As soon as you pick that and press fire, you takes you to the next level. It's the same. It just has different coloured backdrops. So you just walk again from the left to the right. Second level there are some differences in enemies. You get some of the enemies will throw axes at you. Some of them will crouch and fire bullets. You can't, although the axes seem like something you should be able to crouch under, you can't, which is annoying. No. You can punch them though. And it actually punches them back. I thought you'd be punching them back and it would kill the other enemy. It doesn't, they just disappear. In the Genesis game, they fly off screen, but here they go back towards the enemy who threw them. So I thought, if I punch them back, it'll take him out. I was doing that for ages and I realized this is not working, and just walked up to him and punched him. But the bullets and everything, they always have to be jumped over. The jumping here is quite large as well. So what generally tends to happen is the enemy will crouch down, shoot you. You will jump toward them and you'll land on them and bounce back off them and lose energy. It's not very well judged in that respect. But again, it's the same. You carry on like this, beating everything up. There's some enemies you get on higher levels as well, which you have to jump up and hit. They don't do anything unless you go walk past them, and then they drop down and join in the melee. But again, everything just gets killed with one punch and flies off screen. You carry on, and then eventually you'll either get to the map goes up to the top left. If you get there, you get your health back. But then what you've got to do then is go back through the levels. So when you go back to the previous level, you've got to walk through it from right to left. So you've got to trudge all the way through it again. And then you get to the map again. If you pick the wrong thing, like I did by accident, because the way to choose the way to the next level is quite jittery, I ended up going back to the level I'd already done. I was like, I don't want to go back there. So I had to redo multiple levels, and it's all very slow and very boring. But eventually you will reach a boss. This will just be a level on its own. There'll just be a boss will appear. The first one is this kind of little green thing, and you kind of have to jump over its sort of fireballs and punch it. It'll back away slightly, jump and punch. If you manage to kill it, you move to the next level. So there's like 3 little screens at the end. The next screen you move on to after that is just an empty level, which is weird. You just walk across it. Weird. And then you get to another boss, and if you beat them, you go on to the next area. It's more of the same. I guess, I don't know, I'd given up at this point, because this is a tiresomely boring and dull experience in every way a game can be. It's slow and cumbersome. Controls are stodgy. Combat feels weak and ineffective. There's no atmosphere to proceeding, losing all the music from the Mega Drive version of the game, which leaves you with a plodding walk along with just those sound effects to carry out crap combat in a really dull way. There's no strategy. This is no, it's just pressing fire at the right time to punch a thing that'll fly off and then making sure you do that. It's boring. It's very much like Altered Beast in its design. Very much. And just as boring. We said that was boring at the time, but this is boring. There's some nice visuals in the backgrounds, like I said, and the coding's competent, I guess, sprites, but the lack of anything remotely resembling enjoyable gameplay makes this a chore to play, a real dull fest. It's not like this game cannot be done on the machine. Kung Fu Master, we played that ages ago. I mean, essentially, it's the same sort of thing. That was a solid port, fast, and loads of action going on, loads of sprites and stuff. Great, we enjoyed that. Shinobi was the same, really good game that was. We enjoyed that too. You can do, if you want to do slow and atmospheric, you can do that as well. Just look at your Saga Yojimbo. These games can work on the machine, but not like this, to quote The Matrix. Not like this. It may contain the features of the Mega Drive original, but any of the fun has once again, as we've said for loads of these games this year, carefully excised from this game, like scalpel-like precision. It's like, where's the fun? Out you go. It's so boring. So boring. Don't play this. It's really dull. It's called The Last Battle, and I wish it was. I found it tedious in the extreme. What did you think?
Yeah, well, not much more to add to what you said, really. I mean, the graphics the backgrounds looked like they were from a different game, actually.
Yeah, they're weird, aren't they?
Yeah, the upper backgrounds looked like they were from a completely different game, but this was less scrolling, beat 'em up, and more of a stomp 'em up, the way he kind of stomped around. Fighting was inane, yeah. Kick. It's like, oh, goodness. Really, look, we've said this like a million times. Usagi Yojimbo exists. No, even Fist 2 is better than this. And that's saying something.
That's damning.
But it is, because it's, it may not have necessarily all the bones of, but it's got a better central character, the better animated, and the fighting's better.
Yeah, true.
And that's really what it's about. And there was other things wrong with it, but
it was more ambitious. Ambitious.
Yeah, this is just it reminded me of one of the Street Fighter games in the look and feel of it, and they were crap. So I thought the player was lost in the graphics anyway, really, just it all felt a bit, so nice looking backgrounds, but just a really dull, boring, walking along, beating things up for no real purpose. And it just felt to me like the background details were for another game completely. And they were just, at some point, this was just rigged together in some way that functioned. But rubbish. What rubbish, really? No. Go and play any one of the other side-scrolling games that we've talked about that have been reasonably good. Go and play Green Beret, for goodness sake.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want something like that, fast and action-packed.
Yep.
Which this is not. No. I mean, that is the problem with the original port, but the original game of this on the Genesis is fast. Although it's walking, it's faster than this.
Yeah.
This is just slow and turgid.
It ain't good.
No, it's not. There you go. Last battle, certainly not worth £10.71. And goodbye, Elite.
Yeah.
A terrible way to leave the machine. Let's move on. We still have one game left for this year. And that game, Graham, it's over to you. You like the film? Do you like the game of Hudson Hawk?
$10.99 is what you'll pay for this. It got 82% in Zapped, though. Okay. Publishers, of course, Ocean. They're the only people doing film licenses, probably. The developers' special effects, though, who haven't been turning out any, some bad things recently. They've been okay, from what I remember. Mm-hmm. The producer here is, I know a man called Paul J. Finnegan, and he grew whiskers on his chinnigan, didn't he? So it's Paul J. Finnegan's the producer. He produced Batman and Red Heat. Coder here is Robert W. Tinman. Insert jokes around Cowardly Lion. He did Batman Cape Crusader. I think it's important to say that because that is key difference. Ark of Yesod, Midnight Resistance, of course. Graphics here are Ivan Davies. He did Red Heat, Midnight Resistance and stuff like that. Title screen, Ivan Davies. And the musician here is Keith Tinman. No relation. The Tin Men, we've said it before, they're here. He did Heartland, Hyperball, On the Tiles. A pretty good track record, from generally speaking, for these guys. Maybe not Red Heat, but some of the others. This came out on the Amiga, the Atari ST, the Commodore 64, the ZX Spectrum, Amstrad CPC, NES, and Game Boy. Cool stuff. So Hudson Hawk, then, just to reiterate, is a 1991 action comedy heist film starring Bruce Willis as Eddie Hudson Hawk Hawkins, a master cat burglar newly released from prison who just wants a cappuccino. Instead, he's forced back into the criminal world by a pair of eccentric billionaires, Darwin and Minerva Mayflower, played by Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhardt, who blackmail him to steal Leonardo da Vinci's precious works. The scheme involves reassembling a medieval alchemy machine that can turn lead into gold, a plot that attracts the attention of the CIA, the Vatican, and a gang of oddly named henchmen. Along the way, Hawk is paired with fellow thief Tommy Fivetone, who's played by Danny Aiello, and crosses paths with undercover nun Anna Baragli, who's played by Andy McDowell. The film mixed slapstick comedy, elaborate musical timing, including singing while stealing, over-the-top villains, cartoonish action in a deliberately surreal tongue-in-cheek style. It was a major box office failure, though, earning around 30 to 35 million worldwide against a budget of 70 million. Critically, it was poorly received, with the reviewers criticising its chaotic tone, inconsistent mix of comedy and action, and self-indulgent style, though it has since attracted a small cult following. Interestingly, in the Ocean history book, Hudson Hawk is mentioned, and I think this is a case where Ocean bought the rights to the film, and they read the script, the original script, and then the film came out. And so therein lies the problem, that they bought and paid for a big license for a film that they assumed, with it being Bruce Willis and, a fairly big action movie as it was pitched in the original script, they were going to make a game based on that script. Unfortunately, that isn't what came out.
Oh.
And so in a couple of the interviews in there, they cite kind of the problems, two problems. Firstly, the original script is nothing like the film that came out, because it was obviously, there was a lot of interference, both from Bruce Willis, but also from the studio themselves, who famously cut lots of scenes, mix things around, and you end up with this kind of higgledy-piggledy, arguably, I think, quite funny, but mess of a film. And therefore, the game was then, what on earth are we going to make out of this? Because the script that we had for the premise of the game is nothing like the film. Nothing like it's quite high action. It was a Shane Black written script originally, and quite high action, and you can imagine what that got converted to. So, okay, problem number one. Problem number two is that the people that were creating it were probably, I think they were hungover, they said in the interview. And so that's the reason why the characters and the enemies in it are so bizarre, because they didn't have a clue what was actually in the film. And secondly, they thought, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, I'm hungover, I'm going to make a pogoing nun. Why not? So
Why not?
There you go. So we have the game then. This came out pretty late into the C64's life, but Ocean still happy to pump out movie licenses, weren't they? So the plot is loosely based on the film. You are playing Eddie Hudson Hawkins in this, fresh out of prison, as I said, and being blackmailed into stealing 3 Da Vinci works. On the C64, the story from the film they had is slimmed right down, but you do still get mini cutscenes of a sort in between levels to kind of tell you where you're going to go next. There's 3 levels to the game, though, and they all kind of play out the same, but there's 3 levels. Level 1, and from the instructions to complete level 1, you must enter Rutherford's auction house, avoiding the high security system, make your way to the 7th floor, where you'll find a safe. Open the safe and retrieve Leonardo da Vinci's horse sculpture, the Sforza. On your way, you'll meet various obstructions, security guards with clubs and guns, guard dogs, laser cameras, and dangerous janitors. Their job is to stop you from completing your task. That's level 1. Mm-hmm. Complete that, and it's on to level 2. In complete level 2, you must retrieve Leonardo da Vinci's sketchbook, the Codex. This you will find displayed in the Vatican halls. Beware its valued possession, and you'll be confronted by seemingly friendly nuns, but appearances can be deceptive. Insert nuns on pogo sticks. Weird. And then level 3, to complete level 3, you must enter Leonardo da Vinci's castle in search of the mirrored crystal. Obtaining the crystal is the only way of destroying the gold machine and putting an end to the alchemy project. Your path will be crossed by a mixture of nasties, including ballooning gangsters, TV-throwing thugs, sloths, and rats. So they didn't have a clue, did they? The shouts. The game plays a mix of action, platforming, and light puzzling in a side-scrolling, almost platform kind of game deal, really. You're running, jumping, climbing ladders and ropes as you traverse from left to right or down or through the screens. All fairly standard, I suppose, really, for that kind of idea of game. An additional gimmick here, though, is that there's a throw mechanic. Hawk can chuck a ball to hit distant switches, tease dogs, which is a little bit of a nod to what happens in the film. You can knock out guards and take out security cameras and things like that, which is okay when it works. And the bounce physics can take a little bit of practice, though, and a bad throw can waste precious seconds, of course. Things are obviously joystick controlled, a little bit garbled, though, the joystick controls. Up is jump, grab rope, climb ladder, and enter a door. Down is duck, descend a ladder. Left is move left, right is move right. Fire, press quickly to throw a ball, or press slowly to punch. Stupid. That's what they call that control. Why didn't they just have fire and to the right to punch if you're going to do that? I don't know. Yeah. Presentation-wise, the C64 version holds up pretty well. The backgrounds throughout the game are actually well realised with some decent-looking locations as you get further into the 3 levels. Your sprite looks nothing like Hudson Hawk, though. Principally, the main area of the entire game is the game in this. There's no real UI to speak of in there, so you just play out, which is quite an odd thing to play out. So it's all game, really. Your sprite looks nothing like Hudson Hawk, though. At all. It looks more like Elvis. And it's a bit on the small side, which gives the game a very unusual look and feel for this kind of thing. It sort of works if you just make the assumption that has little or nothing to do with how Hudson Hawk looks or presents itself at all. The enemies are also small, again, but this kind of pixel side-scroller art style is all over mobile these days. This would, you can almost see that this was shrunk down to an iPhone or an Android screen. It would probably work. There's quite a lot of games that look a bit like that. But they're moving around and there's some decent details-ish, I suppose. Scrolling is good, though. The controls, once you get used to them, are okay, with the jumping around being a bit of a pain at times. It's a little bit unresponsive, I felt, maybe now and again. I like the way that the dogs grab you and throw you off buildings and things. There's quite a large map, quite a lot of locations. The levels are long in this, surprisingly long. And it's a fair bit to navigate, I suppose. You've got a few puzzles to solve. They're not rock hard puzzles, but they are in there. Get the crates, stack them up. You need that to go through the door, that kind of thing. Wouldn't be an Ocean game if there wasn't some kind of crate stacking in it, would it, really? The music for the game was good, although there isn't a lot of it. So it's all in between bits and sort of loading bits. But there's none in the game itself, which is a huge mistake. I mean, it's just sound effects in the game, which quickly kills the atmosphere because music is a huge part of Hudson Hawk. A huge part. Famously, they rob banks and things they sing songs, and that's how they manage the timing of the robberies. So that's kind of a key thing of the film. That's their thing. That's their MO. So to not have music in a film that's principally based around that, and there's even 2 giant sing-song sequences towards the end of the film, which are really important to the way it works. Really daft.
Is that just proof, though, like you said, though, that they just read the script? Already script.
Those were always that part of the film was always in it. That was always a quirk of their characters. That's how they rob banks. Then when they say how long we're going to need, 5 minutes 30, and because he was a savant and he had a jukebox of music in his head, he would say, let's do Wishing on a Star, and then they would sing Wishing on a Star. That was kind of their. And you can imagine Shane Black kind of getting behind that when he wrote it, and it sort of works in the film for what it is. So to not have it in a game seems crazy when there's no sound, no music in the game. You'd think they would, even if they managed to sort of create a version of "Would you like to wish on a star?" Just put that in the background. It would make sense. Wouldn't be hard. And there's only one channel given over to the sound effects, so there's 2 channels of Sid doing nothing in the game. Bizarre. Anyway, I digress. I think ultimately, there's a reasonable little arcade action side-scroller platform here, but it just has some vague Hudson Hawk theming around its edges. It would actually function as an okay game without any of that. If this wasn't Hudson Hawk, it wouldn't be that out of place as a reasonably fun to play platform or arcade platformer game. It's not terrible at that. They confess in the interview in the Ocean Book they were playing a lot of Rainbow Islands prior to this and playing a lot of those kind of games, and it kind of shows a little bit in this kind of way. But, it would actually function as an okay game without Hudson Hawk. So, okay, the pace is quite good for what it is. The graphics work for what they are. And there's some neat sort of play options with the little throwing mechanic and the jumping about and the little puzzles to solve. It's not a terrible idea for a game. It's just not a very good Hudson Hawk game. To make this better, add the music that you need from Hudson Hawk and make the enemies a little bit more logical to the story and not random series of, Homer's webpage. Or better yet, just up the Hudson Hawkiness of it. Make it a proper film tie-in like you've done with the others with scenes from the film and things that you need to do. There's loads of things missing that they could have added to this. Where's Tommy Fivetone as the second player during the robbery levels? Why couldn't you just switch between the two? That would have made sense. Wouldn't be too difficult to do, would it? So if you're going to rob something, they rob this first sequence where they get the Sforza, they rob it together. They get that together. That's a key part of the plot. So that's missing. So you've got that would, or even if you made it a 2-player game and one of you played Hawk and one of you played Tommy Fivetone in certain levels, that would have made sense. And where's the Mayflowers in this? Where's Anna Baragli? Where's the nun? Where's the CIA Candy Bars team? Where's the Mario Brothers in it? Where are all of those characters? And they are in the original script for this. So why aren't they in this game? Then there's an entire escape scene on the back of Da Vinci's flying machine. Why isn't that? That would have been a great level for a game, wouldn't it? And that's kind of the way Ocean have always done these things. But I'm guessing that Ocean had a panic. The film wasn't successful. Just get however far we've got with this game, just put that out because we're not putting any more money into this because this film's flopped, so nobody's going to buy it. And I think that's exactly what we've got. We've got the 3 levels that were finished, bolted into a kind of story that sort of makes sense. And there you go. There it is. Now, I'll say this, as quirky and as off the wall as all those characters and situations are in Hudson Hawk, they are what makes Hudson Hawk what it is, fair enough. So as a game, this game, if you take all that away, you've actually got an okay side-scrolling platform puzzle. Not the worst one we've ever seen, not the best, but it functions quite well. Actually, the graphics get quite detailed later into the game and the puzzle's quite interesting. And there's actually quite a good little puzzle platformer game. But this is not, a very good Hudson Hawk game, which is kind of the point of it. So that's kind of my final thought really for it. I quite enjoyed the puzzly part of it in that game, albeit that the sprites were a bit small, but I've kind of liked that. As a game of that type, it was okay. As a film license, this sucked massive balls. What did you think?
Yeah, I wanted to like this more than I ended up doing. I quite like this when I got going because I like puzzle platformers and I quite enjoy them. And we don't see a lot of puzzle platformers. We see a lot of platformers and stuff like this, but we don't see a lot of puzzle platformers on the C64. But for me, there's a couple of things that started to get on my nerves. The stickiness of the controls.
Yeah.
How many times did I get killed by that bloody camera in the second level because it just wouldn't jump over that box because I hadn't jumped. Got a bit annoying. And then so that led to the annoying loop back to do the whole section again. And it just became a bit too frustrating for me to stomach. Similarly in a way to what we saw with Round the Bend last week. If you put frustrating loops in front of me, I'll get frustrated and bored quickly. So I thought the visuals and sound of this were really good. I quite like the sound when it was there. The music when it was playing was right. You are right. Could have done with some in the levels. I really like the visuals there. I think it's got a really nice feel to the look of it. And they're kind of giving it a widescreen approach that taken with the display, which I think is quite interesting and quite unusual. Because whether they were trying to make the film, but it kind of makes the little sprites and everything, there's quite a lot of space to play around in because they've gone for that kind of widescreen look. However, a little bit of UI wouldn't have hurt though, especially as I was unaware I had lives and then I suddenly got a game over. Yeah, because I'm playing it and I'm dying a few times. And I'm thinking, oh, they've done it. They've actually just gone, just keep playing. But no, then I got game over, and that curled my enjoyment. Because these games work best when they just allow you to keep failing until you get through. But I guess at this point, we are still in the era of lives and that, the impact of arcades and home computer game design and things like that, which is fine, but tell me I've got lives.
Yeah.
That's a stupid design decision because it's not like the areas aren't tough enough on their own, but having to do it with an unspecified number of lives seems a strange design choice. Weird. But yeah, I got to the third section. I got past the cameras and I got to the third section, went up in the lift or down in the lift, and it all looked really cool and nice. But I got to that bit where there's a hole and there's a policeman on the other side and he kept shooting at me or whatever. And kind of trying to jump on that couch and trying to hit him with the ball. And I just kept falling down the sodding hole and having to do the second level again.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and no matter what I tried to do, I just could not get past him. And I was like, I'm annoyed now and I'm bored and I'm frustrated. So, this is almost good. Maybe at the time, I never played this at the time, but maybe at the time I might have been a bit more forgiving, and had a crack at it and got a bit better. I'd have probably been more better reactions and stuff. And I think this is almost very good. I just don't know, because we don't get many puzzle platformers, and I don't know beyond that whether it gets more interesting, things like that. Maybe it does, but I just feel that was a bit of a sticking point and just making me loop around that bloody, drop me down, because you go up in the lift, you're in the room, but dropping through a hole drops you all the way back along. So on a physical space, it doesn't make any sense. Do you know what I mean? I should just drop down to where the lift is and then come back up to the lift. That would have been fine. I could have kept going at that point, but having make me do all that. No, I was like, no. There's too many puzzle platforms around now for this to end up as anything more than annoying, but it's worth a look. It's quite an interesting title for the C64. I don't know Hudson Hawk enough to know whether it's anything like that. The main character doesn't look like Bruce Willis. He's got shades on, though. I think that's all I can sort of, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you're probably a better person to speak to the Hudson Hawkness of this than I am.
There isn't any. I mean,
so
the story, principally, the
stealing things.
Collecting the Da Vinci's things, that's it. But there's no mention of anything else, really.
Yeah. If they'd have gone, I mean, if you go all the way back and you look at Goonies with the two-player characters solving the puzzles in this sort of thingy location, like you're saying, you could have had that with the two split characters trying to do stuff to solve the location.
God, even Bruce Lee managed that, didn't it, really?
Yeah, well, Bruce Lee's a single character, isn't it? Oh, but
yeah, but you've got two characters in there, haven't you? You've got the big yawny guy and
you've got the opposing thing. But I'm on about you and another character doing the same, working together, sort of cooperatively.
Yeah, absolutely. Which would have worked for this.
Yeah, and we've seen it in games, so I think that's what I mean. So maybe looking back at that would have been a good fit for this, but maybe if all they had was a script, and the rest of the film, I don't know. But I think you're right in that it was a case of just get this out.
Yeah,
it is what it is. It's not terrible, but it is what it is. I just found it a bit frustrating, but it's probably more me than the game. Maybe, I don't know. It's all right. That's Hudson Hawk. Hudson Hawk. And that's it, Graham.
Yeah.
1991 is done.
Finally.
Finally. I've not actually worked out how many games we've played, but I don't think it's been that many. Certainly the lowest of the year so far, I imagine. I think we probably played more in 1985 and that only started in May. But it is what it is. That's it. The end of the year. So this week we looked at, what did we look at? World Class Rugby. Good rugby game. Bit bitty.
Yeah, good rugby game. Bitty,
rough around the edges, but maybe some may say that that's more representative of rugby, which is rough around the edges.
Yeah, it's good. There's a good rugby game to be played in there.
Yeah, Crime Time, which is
waste of time.
Yeah, waste of time. Last Battle, slow
Stompy.
battle, slow battle, and Hudson Hawk, which is okay, but not Hudson Hawk.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with it. If you take it that way, you might find you probably enjoy it more.
Yeah, probably. So that's it. Before we get to charts and things like that, though, we do have a couple of crapverts to look at. Now, this one was put in by yourself.
Yeah, this is it's not so much a crapvert. It might have been the advert. This is the box art. But it's Pit Fighter. It's just rubbish.
What's happened to his pants?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a proper smell my cheese cover. Yes. His pants have been. I don't know. I think it looks to me like they've added those because I don't think he's wearing any.
I don't think so either.
Because it doesn't look like because the guy he's punching out is dressed in some kind of fetishist gear. It looks like he's wearing a man nappy and he's covered in chains. It's very Frankie Goes to Hollywood. This cover.
True.
But it's proper smell my cheese cover. He's like the very definition, and then there's a woman in the background doing it. She's about to smell my cheese to another guy who's also resplendent in his red pants. it all makes very little sense, this cover. So essentially, what to describe it, there are two very burly men, one who's dressed in a man nappy and chains around his neck, and he's falling very dramatically backwards from a guy doing another muscular guy who's been panted, so his pants have been added, and he's doing Smell My Cheese in some kind of pit fighter move. And then in the background, there's clearly the game designer's family, it looks like to me. It looks like a family snap that he's just put in the background. And then in the front, there's these hands holding cash. Badly cut out hands where they've just got the Photoshop cutout tool badly and just gone, right, cut them out. So it's really badly put together. It's really cheap considering this is a 10-gen and a Domark game. Honestly, this is so badly put together. It's frightening that this even got really allowed.
What do you think to the Pit Fighter logo? The dash looks like an envelope.
It does. It's horrible in every way. That is a dramatic bevel, isn't it?
That's super beveled, isn't it? That's super beveled. Yeah, that's beveled to the point where it's beveled to the point where the bevel is meeting.
Good Lord, Adrian. They've not only super beveled it, but they've also outlined it with yellow and black.
And look at the outline between the E and the R as well. That's going to really annoy you. With
it. It's the outline on the dash where it gets thicker on the sides. And it actually so thick it goes over the black lines. It's like, so the black line is it's just horrible. It's awful. An outline should never do that. But look at the outline between the E and the R where it's just thick yellow.
Yeah, the E and the R is awful.
It's because they haven't understood how to kern text properly. And then they've tried to give it a 3D look, but they've put the chisels for the 3D Max in the wrong places. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So the angle for the H and the T is wrong compared to the E and the R. Because that isn't how the chisel would be. Yeah, so it's all completely wrong. It's crap. It's a crap cover. Makes no sense. And the guy who's doing Smell My Cheese, he's like going, his face is really it's like angry.
It's severely, that's some serious Smell My Cheese going on. That's serious.
It is. Yeah, it is. And I'm pretty sure that whatever that guy is doing, he isn't falling. I think they've just taken away the background and cut them out. I'm not sure what was being done to him. I hate to think.
Probably best not to. It is a true crappy advert. Crappy
cover. It really is bad. I can't believe they've covered up their bare legs with red pants for whatever reason. Dear me.
And so on to our next one. I'm not sure if we've had a look at this before. I checked through our crap notes and we haven't. But this is for the last battle.
Dear goodness me.
Well, so in this, we've got the last battle logo at the top, which is heavily 80sized. With lots of that kind of sort of landscape,
chromium,
chrome landscaping and stuff like that. In the foreground, we've got a sort of quite depressed Michael Bean about to punch the Elite logo, and then in the sort of middle ground and off to the right, we've got a ninja leaping through a wall from a red. Well, Michael Bean just grabs his outfit and with his left hand at this point. Same guy at the front is in the back. And I don't know what's going on because I don't remember any people jumping through walls in the game. And I don't remember the main guy looking like Michael Bean. I don't know what this is crap. This is just so badly designed. I don't know what's going on.
You say Michael Bean. I say Jan Michael Vincent. I think that's a calling Jan Michael Vincent vibe about him.
Oh, possibly, yeah. It looks more like Michael Bean to me. Although the one in the background has a squarer jaw.
Yeah,
he looks like someone, but I can't place a bit Dolph Lundgren-y.
Yes, he looks like Stringfellow Hawk. He looks like Jan Michael Vincent. He's exactly him. Calling all Jan Michael Vincents. We're gonna Michael your Vincents. That's what we're gonna do. He's wearing rubber armor. I question the effectivity of that. And his man chest and the background image is bizarre. It's like he's ballooned.
That's just part of his armor.
It's just very weird. But he doesn't have that in the side view, or maybe he does. He's got a very bright light on him, only on his chest.
Only on his chest. Otherwise, he's got a white t-shirt on. But also, as well, the muscles on his arm. Look, that bicep is. He wouldn't be able to bend his arm.
No, he's quite weirdly shaped, and then his neck's a bit twisty. It looks like he's had a very bad neck injury at some point. And also, for every time I look at that ninja jumping through the wall, well, firstly, he's not holding a ninja sword at all because ninja swords are straight bladed. So he's holding a scimitar. Weird. Secondly, it just looks like he's wearing no pants. Every time I look, he's a ninja in top half because he's got orange trousers on, but he's got boots. It just every time I glance at it, I'm thinking he's just like a depanted ninja. It's like, it's just a ninja running through the wall with no pants on.
Can I also point out as well, if you check where the elbow is, look at the length of his forearm grabbing him. It's really long.
He's anatomically incorrect, isn't it? His shoulders, his arm's too long. I mean, I admire he's wearing up to the elbow rubber gloves. which, I don't know what he's planning on doing to that ninja, but he may need them. Looking at where his other arm is, he's liable to punch upwards.
It's a bold fashion choice.
It is.
That's why he's got no pants on.
Ninja's got sword, but no sheath for that, which would never happen. But he's also a robot ninja of sorts, isn't he? Because he's got a red eye. So I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know. Also, as well, there's not enough bricks flying out for the size of that hole.
No, there isn't. I don't quite know why there would be a wall in space, but there is.
Yeah, why is it in space? What is going on?
No, I don't remember the last battle being it. Is it in space? Maybe it was.
No, you're walking along those crappy landscapes.
Yeah, but he's looking very pensive, isn't he? But I think he would be with his the way they position that fist next to the elite. Like, yeah, I think that's how you're going to feel once you played that game.
Yeah, it ain't good, is it? It's really bad. I saw it and I was like, have we covered this? We must look at this. This is dreadful. But and the massive chroming of the that logo, it's overchromed.
Oh, off the chart. And they've kerned the word last so it fits to battle. So last looks like it's spread out a bit. Then they've got this, I hate angled zigzags and this is another one that's got bloody stupid bevel on it. Like, oh God, they'd hit the bloody bevel tool, hadn't they? This is the era of Photoshop plugins had landed.
Yep.
They've got plugin-tastic here, put the space dots, make sure they've all got light flares on them and we've got the chromium plugin, use that. They've gone literally, the Elite logo itself is a masterpiece of chromium, but at least it's never changed. It is what it is. But, that last battle logo, ugh.
It ain't good. Why is the TM there as well?
Why is it there on the last?
Next to the T. Yeah, it's last is TM trademarked.
It's just stupid, isn't it?
James Last might have a word to say about that.
No wonder John Michael Vincent's looking a bit pensive there.
I still see Michael Bean, but I can see John Michael Vincent as well. But whoever it is, he's not looking happy, is he? His neck looks really stretched as well in the foreground as well. Bad. What a bad advert. There we go. Crap. Oh, we've got another one. I didn't see them. You added in another one.
I have. Yes, I thought I had to.
What the hell is this?
So this is for the game logo.
Where's it bought from? Bonoco.
So we're never going to probably play this because this is one of those CP Verlag games that I came across when I was looking through when you look through the games that came out of that era. Now, Logo is one of those games that's a bit Rudy-poody, so it's a bit adult. It's got the filter, it's got that filter cover on the lemon on it, so it's got that adult filter. But when I looked at the advert, I was like, okay, this is very hard to explain what this actually is. But this is a man stacking blocks with a scantily bikini-clad sort of model woman on it, who's drawn in anatomic correctness for that.
Yeah. Why is Dickie Davis doing this? You've muted yourself.
It's just some guy with a giant hand on a mouse. Very strange dealio here. Very unusual, I have to say. What's with all the lighting and stuff going on in the background? What's going on around his head? What's happened? Why is his hand massive on that mouse? It's very strange. Why is he looking so pleased with himself and what's he doing? And who is he? I don't know. It's Dickie Davis. He's got a really ordinary man hairstyle about him. It just made me laugh when I saw it. He's got a very heavy hairstyle for the early 90s, hasn't he? Or late 80s. And more concerning, he's wearing Gary's glasses from the 90s. He does actually remind me a bit of Gary. He does. I mean, aside from the fact he's got the world's largest disc on his table, he's I don't know. Is this some kind of? I don't know about the game. Maybe the game's like a Jenga or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's an alternative. That's an alternative version. That's a German Gary. That's the German. That's German Gary. There he is. That's what he'd look like if Gary was German. That's what he'd look like. Let's have a look. I'm just looking at what the game is. I don't know. There's just loads of digitized pictures of scantily clad women on Lemon. It's I don't know what the game is though. Smut and Stack. It's a place in Germany. It's where they made it. I don't know. What is this game? This game in Smut and Stack. Oh. The first comment on Lemon says the cover was really nice. The computer playing nerd who enjoyed looking at a beautiful almost naked lady. This is art. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thanks, Bronstein. I'm not so sure about that, but I'd love to know. I just want to know who that guy is in the background. Who is that? It is Dickie Davis, maybe, but did Dickie Davis have a moustache? Yeah, he had a moustache and the white tinge to his hair, but he's got that same kind of hair. He has got that kind of hair, hasn't he? He's got a serial killer sort of image. His hand's massive. That disc is huge. His green shirt and
Why is he wearing a green shirt and a jacket? What's going on? No one plays games like that.
And what's wobbled that table to make those bricks fall off? I'm sure what he's doing with that other hand.
So is this called Logo or Go?
I think Logo. I don't know. Not a great idea, is it? Really?
What's he holding? Why has he got his hand up and holding a block?
Good question. I don't know, but it was for 49.95 Deutschmarks again. So
yeah, like I said, where's this from? Bonco?
Yeah, it's some shop in Germany, I think.
Yeah, software partner. I don't know. Anyway, it's a crap cover. It's a crap.
It is a crap.
Caught me by surprise. Well done.
It's a crap box. More of a crap box. That one.
Crap box. Yeah, it's terrible. There we go. 3 really, really bad covers. For probably, I don't know if Logo's any good, but it didn't look very good. Right, let's do the charts. As ever, we're dished down to 10, and it's just full price games. They've given up. I think it's quite mean of them actually to not count budget titles anymore.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Because budget titles are all that was selling. So these must have sold to get to number 1, you probably need to sell 5 copies.
Yeah.
So in at number 10 is a re-entry for Kickoff 2. Down to number 9 is Big Box, Bo Jolly. But that's what I mean. That's a compilation. That's wrong.
Yeah.
New entry at 8 is Turbocharge. Down to 7 is the Rainbow Collection. Fun School 3, not to be confused with Fun Boy 3, is in at number 6. Man United Europe is up to number 5. Disney Collection is staying tight at number 4. A new entry at number 3 is Final Fight.
Goodness me.
People were suckered in for the Christmas nonsense. But in at number 2, Speedball 2. And straight in at number 1, Terminator 2. Or staying at number... There you go. The big titles staying there for the Christmas period.
They do.
And that's it. That is it, Graham.
That's it.
That is it. It's all we have to offer. The crapverts for games, the charts. We now retire to deliberate, think about, and work out what those Golden Bread Bin Awards are going to be for next week. I feel some of those categories may be hard fought. Probably the crap game ones.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be hard to... Music is like... Have we had much good music this year? Anything that stuck out for your brain or anything? Any sound sort of early?
I can't even think what there's been. There has been some bits where we've gone, had quite good music. It's going to be a bit more of a revisit, I think.
Yeah.
I want to see some of the titles and I'll jog my memory of some of the more memorable ones, but there hasn't been a great selection of everything. So
no, but no, it's not. So it's going to be an interesting one because this is really one of the first years where we generally know very little about most of these games.
Yeah, absolutely.
1990 was kind of like that, but this is really like that. This is like, what the hell now for these were. So it's going to be an interesting Bread Bin Awards. And then obviously after that, we're into our final year.
We are.
1992. 11 months of 1992.
It's the final countdown.
It is. That's why that guy's looking so happy. Look at him. I can't stop looking at him, Graham, in that logo cover. You would think that what they're obviously trying to do is sell it with the woman in the middle sort of thing. But I can't help staring at his face.
He's so pleased with himself.
He's so pleased.
He's not even facing that image. It's facing away from him, so he doesn't know what he's looking at.
No, he's just, look what I've got.
He's just really happy. And he's conjuring some kind of red lightning behind him as well. His head's glowing.
I know, absolutely. Gary's used to do that. That's why it reminds me of him.
It's very Gary-like.
Yeah, when he used to go all Big Trouble in Little China on us.
Bedpan. When he was Bedpan, as opposed to Low Pan.
He's Low Pan, Bedpan.
Yeah, it's Gary's version, yeah.
yeah. And the other one, Dustpan.
Yeah, exactly. That's who he is.
Oh, good old bloke, good old Bedpan. Right, that's it, I think. If you want to, like I said, if you want to join in on the bread bins, just sign up to the Patreon. Sign up, join us. Just say what you want to do. If not, don't. It's up to you. But, you can do it. You've got, the week. We're probably recording this time.
Get to it.
Probably recording next Thursday night. So Thursday night, what's next Thursday? That's the 21st. So we probably want to hear from you by the 20th so we can get them incorporated.
Yes.
And that's that. So if you want to support us anyway, you've got a Ko-fi as well, ko-fi.com/Zapped to the past, and the social medias as well.
Yes.
I think that's it. do we have anything else we wish to say on this, Graham, the end of 1991?
Well, it's been a year, hasn't it? There hasn't been a lot of highlights. There's been a lot of lowlights, and which is, I think what I'll say is it's a shame. But in amongst that, like we've said many times, in amongst it, there are still the occasional little gem games, aren't there? For every 10, 20 crap games, you've got a Speedball 2, or there's a few good,
or a Swiv,
or a Rodland, yes, yeah. There've been a few in there that you think actually there is some good ones in there, but they are very few and far between, which is going to make picking the best one probably the easiest one of all, because there's just so few of them to choose from. Maybe the easiest, but by and far the more difficult challenge now is picking the worst of the bloody things, because there's so many. The arcade one, particularly, this has been a bad year for arcade conversions. There has been some utter shit.
Yeah.
So I fear what we're going to end up revisiting some of those. I'm thinking, goodness me, there was some utter dog shit. So I'm not looking forward to that. And as for best sound, I don't know. Like you said, it's not been a great year. By this point, I'm 91. I'm on the Amiga anyway, so this was all new territory for me. So I think there's been there has been the occasional highlights. Smash TV maybe one of them, and there's been the odd, the odd thing, but it really was few and far between in a sea of budget releases. Really, then the year was dominated by budget releases, so much so that they cut them out of the charts because they were clearly influencing. It was just the year of budget games. C64 was out at this point. Now there was still, yes, I know we said there were still plenty of people playing it, and there was, but it was on its way out in terms of stuff that was being made for it. I admire some of the companies that were hanging in there with it. I do, but some of their efforts could have been better. And but where you've got some really dedicated programmers, they stayed true to the system. They still produced some of the goods, but there was no money in it, was there? No developers were going to be making a lot of money off the games on the C64 at this point, really.
No, not really.
So, and I think that's the real tragedy, is that the games that we're seeing that were even quite good were really down to the passion projects of the people involved when they're really good. Because it's certainly when they're a bit more the jobbing coders and stuff like that, because they're not going to be earning their crust at this. And to be fair, they might not even want their name on some of the credits for some of them. They're not putting the effort in, and so you end up with you get what you get. You end up with a Final Fight, which was just rubbish. You end up with that because just put it out. Who can be bothered with it? And it's a shame. That is the shame. But it's the kind of hurrah I kind of expected. Weirdly, I imagine it's exactly the same thing that happened to the Amiga at the end of it. The Amiga's life, the games were getting stupidly multi-disc and rapidly overwhelming the system's capabilities. And at that point, people were making the jump to other systems, weren't they? So I think that's just the way it goes. But that's my take on it. It's not December itself has been a shit old month, hasn't it, for games? The weird, of course, no Zap November. But
Smash TV was the highlight, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. We're now, whereas before the rule of averages would say that there was probably going to be at least a few good games. Now the average rule is that there are so many bad ones that the good ones are very few and far between, and the really good ones very extreme. There's very few of those. What
did we have this month? Railroad Zone was crap. Final Fight was crap. Rugby the World Cup wasn't great. Pit Fighter was awful. Round the Bend was great. Thunder Jaws was crap. Crime Time was crap. Last Battle was awful. That's quite a lot high average of bad.
Yeah, and that's the average that's almost like that for every month.
Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting week next week as we try and whittle out what our best ones, and we will get that done.
It really will be a battle of the bastards, won't it? It's really going to be.
It really will be. But I think on that note, we should leave our patient listeners and let them get on with their week. As ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham, not Bedpan Raddings.
And you have been listening to Dustpan. Now you've been listening to Zap to the Past. And we will see you again next week for the Breadbin Awards. Do join us. See you then.
Thank you for listening to the Zap to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zap to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zaptothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zaptothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapToThe, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.